Okay, we're live. Hello and welcome to episode 19 of Fright Lounge, the show in which the best horrorologists in town will discuss horror in depth and get a conversation going for the seasoned horror viewers, as well as introducing newbies to the genre. I am Rigor from Then Is Now podcast, The East Meets the West, and the Cult Movie Lounge. And I'm joined, of course, by Bill Van Ryn, who will be on in a second, and of course, my kill.
Yo,
Hey,
yo, yo, yo.
there you guys are. Bill, why don't you tell the folks where you're from as well?
Sorry, I'm having a problem with one of my ears.
Uh-oh. You should have it removed.
I know. Well, that was the problem.
Bill Van Gogh.
A part came off. Um, I'm Bill Van Ryn from Fanzine Drive-In Asylum and Facebook page Groovy Doom and the Drive-In Asylum double feature on Saturday nights.
Awesome, awesome. The Prince Regent of electronic dance music himself, Dantes Alexander, is going to join us tonight. He's running a few minutes late, so we'll admit him in as soon as he gets here. While we're here, first, since we're usually the ones that do the t-shirt thing, I've got my t-shirt on today. If you guys can figure out what it is.
Creepy pasta.
No?
Or pasta. No, ramen. Spaghetti.
Is that a turkey?
Let me talk so you can see it better. I don't know if you can see it.
Creature from the
No.
shit. I don't know. Elf stew.
Oh wait, it's a cowboy with a horse.
Yep. And if I talk, you can see it closer up. Cowboy pulling the horse on top of what?
Spaghetti.
On top of spaghetti.
Spaghetti Western.
Oh,
okay.
spaghetti Western.
Sometimes, we need things spoon-fed to us.
Yes. It also looks like there's a penis in the image there, like off to the side. Am I wrong?
No, that's
Like
the
not
spoon. This
No, not the spoon, the opposite side. Opposite side from the spoon, is that like a what is that? I
Oh.
can't even see the horse and the cowboy.
I
By
think
the
it's
way,
interesting the things you're seeing in there, Michael.
I know. I'm like,
I know.
well, I mean, I can't see I'm not. My brain is not.
Let me talk so that my picture comes up, and then you can see it up closer.
Okay.
It's a moon. It's the moon behind the bowl of
I don't-
spaghetti, and
I
the
don't
cowboy
s-
and the horse on top of it.
I don't. Oh, I see the horse now. Oh, I see the cowboy and the horse now. Okay. I was looking at like the negative space between the horse and the cowboy. I wasn't seeing that. Oh, okay.
That's
So,
funny.
okay, that's just the shape under the horse's butt between his thigh and his tail. Okay. Never mind. My bad.
This is like those things where it looks like an ad for clams and it's an orgy.
Yeah.
It's subliminal advertising.
Wasn't
Like
there
the Little Mermaid thing with the castle and the
Oh
was
yeah.
it
And
was
what-
it
Yes.
Little Mermaid? Yeah.
like liquor ad that had ice in it, and it looked like there was like naked ladies in the ice.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right. What do you guys got for t-shirts? Come on, it's t-shirt time.
Oh, I've worn this one before. I can't stand up from where I am, but it's Wolverine. It's old Art Adams drawing from the mid 80s. Whoa, what happened there? Old Art Adams drawing from the mid 80s of him looking all claw ridden, claw sticking out. I don't know. It's mixing with my background. But anyway, Wolverine, awesome Wolverine. I looked for a long time to find a Wolverine shirt that I would be happy with, and when I found this one, I was like, oh, dude, I'm getting it.
Bill, what
It's
do you
like
got?
perfect color and everything.
Oh, mine's self-explanatory. It's, hello,
Dead or
I'm Pete
Alive.
Burns. I'm Pete Burns of Dead or Alive, and this t-shirt is totally unlicensed. It's totally
Uh-oh.
unlicensed, and I plan to sue.
That's
awesome.
just a bunch of bloody bollocks. Damn merchandisers.
Awesome.
You
So our last-
spin me right round, baby, right round like a record, baby. Okay. Shut
You're
up.
gonna have to
Okay.
pay royalties for that now, Michael.
Oh, god damn it.
It's
But I only
Steve.
sang 5 seconds of it. Is that still royalty territory? I thought there was like a minimum, you could get away with a few seconds, but not more than that.
I think
You
it's
sang a note, you owe me money.
Balls.
So, folks, last month we did our Halloween memories, and I trust you guys all had a great Halloween.
Yeah, pretty good.
It was fabulous. It
Pretty good,
feels
pretty
like
good.
nothing even happened on Halloween because I can't give out candy anymore. There's no trick-or-treaters
Oh,
where we live now. So it's a bummer. But you know, the entire month of October was pretty awesome.
yeah.
I really thought I was going to be able to go to the store after Halloween and stock up on all the candy they were selling at low prices, but the fuckers must have just sent it all back to there was none. Like you know how, you know what I mean? Like the day after you figure, oh, it's all going to be cheap.
Yeah.
It wasn't there. It's like they just liquidated it.
Ah, you liquidated her.
And of course, all the
Very
Christmas shit is up
resourceful.
already.
Oh, that sucks. Excuse me. Yeah, we
Oh
took our
well.
grandson to this neighborhood that like they go all out. A friend of my wife's lives there, so we went and hung out with them, and they had like this whole setup with like a one of those portable awnings, and they were launching fireworks, they were making moonshine and passing it out, and it
Ooh.
was really
Damn.
cool. I was
Passing it out
good.
to the kids.
Yeah,
Trick or
yeah, no
treat.
kidding.
Here, little Jimmy, this is called moonshine.
I remember when when my parents adopted my sister, she was an infant, and my grandmother's like, "Oh, if she's teething, just put a little bourbon on her gums."
Oh yeah, people gave alcohol to children all the time.
Yeah,
Jesus.
I was gonna show some pictures, but I just didn't have a chance to pull them off my phone. So before we get into the films, because this might be a long one, because the two of the films are anthologies and they've each got multiple stories in them. Um, and since it's going to be a long show, I know Bill, you mentioned what you do online. Why don't you give out your web addresses now before people tune out and maybe miss it at the end of the show?
Driveanasylum.com. It collects all of my online presences. Go to the Groovy Doom Facebook page. That's really how I communicate with most people. And also Groovy Doom on Instagram. Follow me there too, please.
Awesome.
And Bill, I'm gonna ask you a question. I have asked you before, but I don't recall what the answer was. When for Drive-In Asylum, is there a hyphen between drive and in?
In the actual title of the zine and all the other
No,
presences, yes. About
but
you
not
mean in the
typing it
web
in
address,
when you're
not
typing it into the
no, not online. There's
no
no
hyphen.
hyphen.
Okay,
Excellent.
just
Excellent.
checking.
And of course, you can find me and all my shows and my blogs at havenpodcasts.com. That's Haven Podcast plural.
And you can't find me anywhere because I don't do anything except this.
I saw
Yeah.
you on some other podcast a while back, and I was like, he's cheating on us.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I did one with this guy I went to high school with. Yeah,
That was
yeah.
funny.
It's
One
not in your
episode.
contract.
I know, right? He's cheating on us. That bastard.
So tonight we're going to discuss three cool horror flicks. We've got Pumpkinhead from 1988, The Monster Club from 1981, and Twilight Zone the movie from 1983. And spoiler alert, we're probably going to pretty much spoil the shit out of these movies. They're all around 40 plus years old. So and they're all available, at least as of this recording, they're available on Tubi. I did want to point out that the Monster Club was requested by one of our frequent viewers named Frank. So thank you for that, Frank. It was a great suggestion. And so first up, let's go with Pumpkinhead from 1988. And I'll give a brief synopsis because since this one's probably the simplest of all three films. After his son dies in a hit and run accident, Ed Harley, played by Lance Henriksen, seeks revenge against the teenagers responsible. With the help of a local witch, Ed summons the vengeful demon Pumpkinhead to hunt and kill the group of friends. But when Ed discovers a bond between himself and the creature and feels its evil, he begins to have second thoughts about employing the vicious monster and fights to end Pumpkinhead's murderous rampage before it's too late. So, first impressions, and when did you first see this? Bill, you go first.
I guess I rented it. I didn't see it in the movies. Did it even get a theatrical release?
It surprisingly did. I didn't think it
Yeah.
did, but when I looked it up for ads, and I can call those up in a little bit, it did.
Yeah, I must have rented it, and I remember not liking it very much. Honestly, the first time I saw it, I was like, it was at this period in my life when I was sort of over horror movies, and I was, it was the late '80s, early '90s, and I kind of just felt that horror was going to shit. because it wasn't like the 70s anymore. It was changing. I was not on along for the ride for this, and I just thought movies like Pumpkinhead were very rote and unimaginative, which I guess you could level that accusation at it. But I went back later and watched it, and I was like, this movie's really good. I thought it was, a lot better than I remembered, and with excellent special effects, because of course the director is Stan Winston,
Yeah.
genius at creating special effects and creatures, monsters, imaginative creatures of all kinds. Stan Winston, and he brought a lot of his magic to Pumpkinhead. That's a major reason why the film works at all, is because the creature is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Michael?
Agreed. I don't remember. I also, like Bill, I'm sure I did not see this in the theater. I'm assuming we watched it together, you and me and maybe Chris or whoever, because we were always on the lookout for horror and stuff. This is my favorite type of horror movie. Well, it's a combination. I was going to say my favorite type of horror movie is monster movie. So when there's a big, creepy, scary looking thing just going around ripping people's heads off and, eating their gizzards and whatnot, that's my kind of flick. And also it's a revenge movie, which is another one of my favorite types of movies. And Lance Henriksen is in it, and he's fucking awesome. Because I had seen him in, plenty of other stuff prior. And yeah, I think I liked it a lot the first time around, and I believe I had seen it before I watched it again last night. I think I had seen it at least twice before, but it had been a long time. So it was kind of cool watching it again after so much time and taking a fresh look at it with my more experienced brain. But it's awesome. I really love this movie.
Nice. Yeah, I love this movie too. I remember reading about this in Fangoria when it was called Vengeance the Demon. And I always thought it was direct to video, but as we said before, I actually did find some movie ads, and I'll call those up in a second. Yeah, I definitely rented it when it first came out because I was looking forward to it. And I saw it so many times in those intervening years. Hadn't seen it in a long time until recently, till we did this viewing. And it's, for me, it still holds up. I loved it. I had seen it, a few times more over the years since then, but if you haven't seen this one, folks, you really should check it out. I highly recommend it. It's got some, like Bill said, it's got great effects. It's Stan Winston. It kind of looks like Alien. Even my 6-year-old grandson watched the whole thing with me, and he thought it would look like the alien from Aliens. So, and Alien.
The shape of the head,
yeah.
Primarily the shape of the head, I think.
Yeah,
that's a generous comparison, but I would say that it's absolutely stunning in its own right. I don't really think it looks like Alien all that much. The shape of the head, yeah, right, maybe, but I think it's its own thing, and that's why I really dig it. It's like although it does have a fantasy element to it too. It's not realistic. It's not. It doesn't look like a real creature. It looks more like a Halloween decoration come to life. If that was a real thing, like some of those ghouls that you would buy in the store for Halloween remind me a lot of Pumpkinhead, only it moves and it kills.
Like those 12-foot tall skeletons that are popular these days.
Yes. I don't get those. Those piss me off, I have to admit. Everybody's into them, these giant skeletons. I'm like, okay, is it a giant people Halloween? I don't know.
Oh my God, they're all around here. A lot of the houses have them. And Spency works at Home Depot, and he was telling me last year people would buy them up, so there was none in the store, and then they turn around and sell them for like $400 or $500.
Wow.
So, all right, I'm gonna share.
I mean, I guess that's smart in a way, but Jesus. Roger, I know for sure that the two of us watched it together at some point. I don't know if it was the first time we saw, because it was the first time I had seen it. I don't know if it was the first time you had seen it.
It was. I didn't see it in the theater.
Okay, because I specifically remember one particular shot that made me jump, and I think we both jumped at the same time.
Yeah.
So
there was a few I jumped through this time, and I worked at Blockbuster Video at that time too, so I definitely got it like right when it came out. So
Blockbuster Video.
So this is from, you know what? I don't know what this is from because this was actually already clipped. If anyone, Calgary Place, it must be in Canada.
Yeah, this
Uh,
looks like a Canadian ad, just like the shape of it and the way they list the movies.
yeah, playing alongside of Dave Cronenberg's Dead Ringers. Which
Cronenberg.
I just
Another
Cronenberg.
Canadian thing.
yeah, I just watched that recently. It was pretty good. I hadn't seen it in ages. I can't see now if Dantes pops in. Hold on, let me see if I can. No, we'll just have to wait till we're done with these pictures. Um, oh, I thought this was funny. We don't normally put the descriptions up, but I thought this was great. Imagine the Great Pumpkin finally visiting Charlie Brown's Fred Linus and then crushing Linus's head in its jaws, and you get an idea of what a sweet, sensitive film this movie about a pumpkin-like avenger that goes on a teenager killing spree is. The title may be Pumpkinhead, but the key word here is squash, as in squash teenager. Starving pilgrims wouldn't see this film in the theater if they gave away free popcorn. Rated R for revolting and rotten.
That makes it sound even better than it really is.
I know. Even though it seems like a negative ad, but I mean negative review, but
I know if I
it
read
makes
that, I
me
would
want to
go
see it.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to
That's my
see
kind of
Linus's
movie.
head get crushed.
Mm-hmm.
Linus annoyed me every moment of the show. And the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. I was like, what's
Yeah.
wrong with him?
That's funny. Even my grandson was like, "So why doesn't he have a pumpkin head?" He must have asked me like 4 times. I'm like, "Because it's just his nickname. He was
It's
made in the pumpkin patch."
yeah, right.
He even
Exactly.
said it at one point.
I was confused by that too. I was like, what the hell? I
Uh,
didn't sign on for this.
Here's another one, a grim fairy tale. This is from the Tampa Bay Times from January 30th of 89. So it was playing still back when they played movies a long time in the theaters. Or sometimes they even took a while to get to the theater. They didn't always release across the country all at once like they do nowadays. They'd start it in certain areas and shop it around.
Yeah. That way they didn't have to make a whole bunch of prints, which were costly.
Right.
If Linus described this movie, he'd call it Pumpkinhead. Pumpkinhead. The way they say pumpkin in that thing is so weird.
Really? I never thought
Pumpkin,
about
it's a great pumpkin. Pumpkin.
My ex-wife's mom would not say the word pumpkin. She said pumpkins all the time.
Pumpkin.
Pumpkin. It's a pumpkin.
Yeah,
I gotta
that's
put
very
pumpkins
Pittsburgh
up.
too.
I was like, Jesus. She's from Michigan, but I was just like, and even my ex-wife, it bugged the shit out of her. So like that when we weren't in the presence of her mom, she would go, Jesus, why does she say pumpkin all the time? It's so fucking annoying.
I stopped the share for a second because I got a wave notification from Dantes.
Wave.
I don't know why.
Dantes is waiting.
He's not in the waiting room though, so I don't know why.
Oh.
Dantes. Hello. All right. Well, we'll come back to those, and I'll keep that going for a little bit. So yes, Stan Winston, of course, directed this, and Lance Henriksen, who's 83 now. Can you believe that?
Damn.
God.
Of course, we've seen him in Near Dark, Aliens, Terminator, Aliens versus Predator, 2004. He played what's his name? Wayland.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Waylon
forgot
Jennings.
about that.
He
The
was
stunning
also-
mansion of the doomed featured Lance Henriksen, eyeless, with effects by
Eyeless?
Stan Winston. Yeah, that movie is like
Eyeless.
Eyes Without a Face, and Richard Basehart from Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea is an eye doctor, and his daughter bangs her head off the car windshield and goes blind. So he like crosses the line into the taboo area of eye transplant and is using human donors. And she gets her sight back, and then she loses it 20 minutes later. So he has to keep finding new people with new eyes to transplant. And her boyfriend is Lance Henriksen. And those are the first eyes he gets. But he doesn't kill them. He puts them in a cage in the basement and keeps them alive down there with empty eye sockets. So Stan Winston did these fabulous eye socket appliances for that movie. And Lance Henriksen looks like he's about 10 years old in it. It's a beautiful thing.
That's hilarious.
I think Lance Henriksen's face aged faster than the rest of his body. because even in Pumpkinhead, when he's like working at the beginning, he takes his shirt off because he's been working on the yard, and it's like his body looks like it's about 30 and his face looks like it's about 45.
Kind of
Like,
like Iggy Pop.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
like what happened there?
All right. I'm trying to send the link to Dante.
Oh,
Apparently he needs it again, and I can't seem to figure out where the hell it is.
I wonder if the movie that would have been interesting if the thing actually if the face actually did sort of look more like an actual pumpkin or more similar to a carved pumpkin, not completely, but like more so. And then we would have maybe noticed more and more how it started to look more and more like Lance Henriksen as the movie went on. Because I didn't really pick up on that until like the end, and the nose changed and everything. But
Oh yeah. The
are we going
new.
to talk about the cast? Because there's a dude in the cast that I want to talk about.
Yeah, hold on. I'm just resending him the link again. There we go. All right. And in the cast, yes. So Lance Henriksen, of course, he was in Millennium, that X-Files spin-off show. I used to like that one. And I read a
Oh yeah.
he was in a couple of the Pumpkinhead sequels, the third and fourth ones, Ashes to Ashes and Blood Feud. And I guess he basically said they were shit. And in one of the screenings, he literally crawled out of the theater on his hands and knees so people wouldn't see him leaving. Um,
How
Wait,
melodramatic.
I know. How many sequels were there? Four? Five?
three sequels, so there's
Oh,
four
three,
total.
four total. I don't think I saw any of those. I've never seen any of the sequels. Just I've seen the original.
I've
I
seen the
haven't
second
either.
one, Blood Wings, but I don't even remember. I think my brain blocked it out.
It was that bad.
um, and then we've got okay, sorry, I'm doing like four things at once here. We've got okay, John D'Aquino played Joel. He was the dickhead older brother who he's the one that hits little Billy. He's been in tons of TV shows. Now, Jeff East, who played Chris, Mike, he was the one with the curly hair and the tactical
Yeah,
sweater vest. Do you recognize him?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Took me a while. I saw him and I was like, dude, that guy's face, like I know him from somewhere. It's driving me nuts. The first thing that popped into my head because he has the curly hair was like Jimmy Olsen because I knew it was a Supermanish thing. And then the more I chewed on it, the more I realized no, he played Clark in the original 1977 Christopher Reeve Superman movie during the scene on the football field, right?
Yes. And he was the one running alongside the train and all that. He was
Yeah, running on. Yeah, and then he goes talks to Pa Kent, and Pa Kent has the heart attack and everything.
yeah, yeah.
He's
That was
got like
him.
a very distinctive, nose and facial features. And
I think when we first watched this we recognized him from that too, without even having Google at our fingertips at that time.
well, back then it was only like 15 years later or 10 years later. No, wait, 11 years later. So
Hold on 1 second. Talk amongst yourselves. I need to mute myself for a second.
talk amongst
George Buck
ourselves.
Flower is in this movie too. Who George Buck Flower was probably in every horror and exploitation film for about 40 years. There's a small part
Who
for
was
George
he?
Buck Flower.
Do
And
you know who was he in the movie? Who was he in Pumpkinhead? Like what?
Mr. Wallace. He was Mr. Wallace in Pumpkinhead. But the other notable cast member in Pumpkinhead is Dick Warlock, the stuntman Dick Warlock, who's been in so many movies, and he was Michael Myers in Halloween 2.
Did he play the creature?
No, he
in
was
this?
he had a human part.
Oh,
Roger has him noted as man in the opening, Clayton Heller. So he may have been maybe he was the last person that used Pumpkinhead. I'm not sure.
okay.
Dick
Or he was the
Warlock
guy
is
that came into the store.
he's instantly recognizable because he just has a very distinctive look. He kind of looks like he reminds me of Porter Wagner, or who was the guy that had the show with Porter Wagner with Dolly Parton back in the 70s. So Dick Warlock, though, I spotted him in Casino the other day. I was watching a clip from Casino, and he was one of the guards in Casino that helped break the cheater's arms and fingers. I was like, wow, there's Dick Warlock.
Is his real name Warlock?
Oh yeah.
Wow. Seems like a.
I'm a big fan of Halloween too. There's that one part in Halloween 2 where the kid with the boombox is walking down the street and bumps into Michael Myers, and that's Dick Warlock's son, Lance, who
Ah,
was young, very young at the time.
huh. Yeah. Going back to Pumpkinhead, the scene that I was talking about that made me jump when I was first watching it with Roger was the after the demon has been summoned and he's already started killing people, and the guys go out to like be manly and see if the creature's around and shoot it or whatever into the woods, and the girls are just sort of like hanging out in the cabin and they're talking to each other, and one of them goes to like walk across toward the kitchen, and as she walks across there's a window behind her and you see like Pumpkinhead's like arm and elbow as he walks
Yeah.
past the cabin. It's just there in the background. It was like, whoa, shit! Like, like, holy crap, he's right there. And then he didn't even like come in and attack them at that time or anything. He just happened to be walking by, and they put that in there. I was like, oh, that was so great, such a great.
His Uber had just dropped him off. He just got out of the lift and he was looking for the keys. Like, is this the place? These people? Okay.
That was terrifying. One other actor that's in this that I'm sure nobody would recognize, because I didn't even recognize her until I read it in the research, and here's Dantes, is Mayim Bialik, was one of the little girls. People may know her from Blossom, and she was also Amy on The Big Bang Theory. The one with the
No
glass.
way.
Sheldon's girlfriend. Yeah, she was one of the little girls. She was Christine Wallace. Hey, Dantes, can you hear us? Oh, he's still connecting.
We got a message. He's still connecting.
But yeah, I was surprised that she was in this.
So she was like one of the little girls from the village, or one of the girlfriend. Oh, one of the girls from the village. Yeah, the family.
Hey, Dantes, can you hear us?
I can. How are you guys?
Good.
Hey, we can't see you.
I don't know what's going on with my screen.
It was weird. Now, I sent him the link twice on Instagram, and on the computer it's there, but when you look on the phone app, it's not there at all. He's like, I am in Instagram and I don't see it.
Okay.
It's weird.
Okay.
There he is.
Hey, everybody. What's going on? How are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm sorry I was running a little late. Excuse my rave background over here. I'm still in the spirit. So
I believe.
Right
on. So yeah, we're talking about Pumpkinhead. Dantes, did you have a good Halloween?
I did. I enjoyed my Halloween, and I actually didn't enjoy watching Pumpkinhead. It brought back a lot of bad memories, actually.
Really?
Yeah, because like that was just one of those movies where they just, intentionally told you that Pumpkinhead was going to fuck with you if you didn't be quiet. So, it brought back like all of those like uncomfortable feelings of like, I need to be quiet because if I'm not quiet, then Pumpkinhead is going to come in here. Yeah.
Your parents told you that? Your parents told you to be quiet?
God. Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's hilarious.
Pumpkinhead's going to come and get you.
So
bear with me one moment, guys. I'm gonna plug my computer in here. She just beeped, so I just walked in. Bear with me. Sorry.
That's fine. Okay. Bill, I just wanted to address what you had mentioned about my note about Dick Warlock. I believe he played Ed Harley's father. No, I'm sorry, because right above it is Lee DeBrew as Tom Harley. So he must have been the guy that wouldn't let Tom Harley into the house.
I can't really remember.
Oh, at the beginning, yeah.
I can't remember spotting Dick Warlock in this movie because I mustn't have been looking for him. I don't know.
Oops.
I wasn't aware he was in the cast.
Get away from my house. Get away from my kin. I really liked that element of it. That moral dilemma of like, if we kind of want to help you, but if we let you in, we're screwed. So, that was very, very upsetting to watch. I think like both times it happened in the movie, I was like, oh God, I can imagine being inside and just like having these conflicting, feelings.
Yeah. It looks like.
Did you guys already talk about Stan Winston?
A little bit, but what do you
Not much.
So I didn't know that the creature effects were Stan Winston until like after the fact. Before watching Pumpkinhead, I was actually watching a piece by Michael Jackson. I forgot what video it was. Ghost, I think it was. And Stan Winston had done all of the makeup and creature effects on that. And I thought that was so neat. And when I looked at the credits, I'm like, oh my God, that's the Stan Winston. And then come to find out, for me, he has all of these really, really, really big credits, like what Jurassic Park he had done.
Terminator.
Yeah, Terminator. Yeah. So I was just really, really shocked by that. But overall,
did he work on The Thing or the
Thing too?
American Werewolf in London or something?
Yeah. So I was pretty shocked by that. I thought that was pretty cool. But I also found out that he recently
RoboCop. I think he worked on RoboCop.
Yes.
Yeah, RoboCop too. Yeah, and then I found out that he passed away in 2008. I actually thought he might still be, alive. And I was going to send him a really cool message to be like, "You fucked up my childhood."
He'd probably be glad.
He would be glad. I mean, but
I did my job.
He did his job. I mean, he really did his job. I mean, the creature effects to me, they still are pretty intense. Like, it being, in the middle of my 30s, my big black ass is scared, crunching my pillow because, especially the scene where, he goes to meet the witch, like that really sort of.
Yeah.
He's kind of neat. I like her.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at Stan Winston's thing.
I love her life. She lives off grid in a little cabin
She
somewhere.
does.
Yeah, all of those bewitching folks, they don't bother anybody. Folks always come bother them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how like several people kind of warned Harley like not to do what he was doing,
Yeah.
Like even the guy in the village when he went to when Harley drove to the village and was like, asking about how to find that woman. He was like, you're just gonna, you're not gonna heal your son. You're just gonna damn yourself. And, I'm not gonna help you do that. And even the witch, when he got to the witch, she was like, you don't know what you're messing with. You really don't want this. You should probably just go.
And then she did it anyway.
She did it anyway because he
got these movies.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know that this was an independent film because, when you're a kid, you don't really have a scope of what the hell an independent film and a major film is. But all the more powerful, like good script writing, good creature effects, but it harkens back to that old school technique that Stan Winston had that actually makes the film so very much enjoyable and still fucking creepy. I'm serious, guys. Like I'm still cringing. Like, I mean,
That's funny. It was inspired by a poem by a guy named Ed Justin. And I guess the last line of the poem says, bolted doors and windows barred, guard dogs prowling in the yard, won't protect you in your bed, nothing will, from Pumpkinhead.
boy, he's gonna get best actor over there. You really delivered that line perfectly.
I believed it. I totally believed every word.
I did.
You know what I
ahead.
really liked about the beginning of the movie is that I thought that the tension between the characters was like well established. And not just the tension, but they did a really good job establishing how close the bond was between Harley and his son. Like just a few quick scenes, but it was enough to be like, okay, he really, treasures his son, and he's a hardworking guy, but he constantly makes time for his son. And then when the teenagers came along and that everything was like just a little, that it wasn't always a whole lot of dialogue, but I really felt like I don't know what I'm saying. It was just like it wasn't a complex script, but it was enough that I was interested right away, and I could feel the dynamics between the different characters and stuff.
Right.
Well, I wish I had a father like that. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that. I mean, I know this is a horror movie, but goddamn, I wish I had a father who cared, so intently about me that he would go and do this fucking awful thing and get his fucking revenge. I unfortunately did not grow up with that type of father. So for me, I sort of enjoyed that I guess the tension of, what would you do if you were a parent? You don't know how far you really would go. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So I think for me that really is the biggest the biggest thing about the film, honestly, is like the unbreakable bond, almost like with all of the themes of the movies that we've watched. Like with Jason, for example, with his mother, you know. So yeah, I see you're over there, Michael, mocking me. I have
Jason Voorhees.
man.
No, I
Yeah.
was mocking Roger. Roger was swatting at a bug in his vicinity.
Getting attacked by a mosquito, which I don't
We
understand.
can't even see it, can you?
He's in cold weather. No, but it was bugging me.
No, but I could sort of tell the way he was acting. And I remember watching some movie once where like the person swatted at a bug that wasn't there or was looking for a bug that wasn't there, and it made them look like crazy.
Yeah.
So
I always felt crazy. So I
but
I
I
was
heard what you were
swatting at
saying though
gnats
about
the other
Jason's
day, and
mom.
someone saw me.
Yeah,
and
that
I
was
like,
Jason's mom. Yeah, sorry about that. But
She got revenge
Yeah.
after the son got drowned at the camp.
but also living vicariously through your child too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Isn't that very dark? That's very dark. I'm very dark. Sorry.
That's fine. But the thing is, no, there would be no movie if this didn't happen. But if it was me, I would have locked up the store and taken the kid with me if I just had to go.
Right.
yeah.
Why would you
Right.
with a bunch of strangers milling about? You don't know if they're criminals or not.
Right.
Right.
I
That
mean,
was a big
unless the
mistake.
kid was like 16, maybe, but
That was part of the tragedy, though. That's why he felt so guilty, is because he knew that he really hadn't done the right thing. That if he had just done something differently, that nothing would have happened to the little boy. So that drives a lot of people when they seek
Yeah.
revenge for things. Is like because they know they did something wrong too. Usually,
Yeah.
And I always loved that line. It stuck with me ever since I first saw it. Was where him and the kid are washing their hands together, and he's like telling him how his grandmother used to wash his hands when he was a little kid, and he's like, her skin was so thin it felt like tissue paper. And I always remembered that for some reason.
Yeah.
So I wanted to jump
Yeah.
over. We had mentioned Dick Warlock, who plays the monster. He's also at the beginning. I'm going to share this quick Google search, because rather than just download one picture, I don't know if you guys can see it. But yeah, there's Dick right up there and here and there, and that's him again. So it's definitely him as Ed Harley's dad at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
It is, yeah.
So
It's pretty neat.
I liked that when Ed Harley as a child looked out the window and saw Pumpkinhead like impaling the other guy. That was cool. Like he saw it when he was a child, so he knew it existed for sure. And then
right. He knew what it could do. So let's take a quick jump back here to the newspaper ads. There aren't too many more here. I wanted to read this, actually, a positive review. Somewhat artistic approach to the Teens Oft in the Woods theme, with a good central performance by Lance Henriksen and a pumpkin patch demon combining the tastiest elements of skeletal corpse, humongous insect, and anorexic alien.
That's actually a pretty good description.
I think he sort of hit that spot on, right? I mean,
I love that word humongous.
Yeah.
He was humongous though. And again, I still have this impression of Pumpkinhead being like 9 feet tall, because I don't care how many times I've seen this as an adult, the first time you see it, and if you've seen it as a child, that motherfucker is huge. And he is.
Yeah,
He's really, 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 really huge. I didn't see any Pumpkinheads this year though for Halloween. I was surprised. I think we were all of the old folks were probably in the house because the weather was just so janky. We went out. Did you guys go out?
Yeah. We had great weather here.
Oh, see, it was bad here. It snowed here in Chicago, and then it went from snow to this beautiful fucking rainbow, and then it snowed again, and then it was dark.
Jesus.
It snowed Halloween night here in Pittsburgh.
Really?
In the surrounding. It was nighttime though. But I went out when I didn't cut the pumpkins. I didn't carve the pumpkins until late this year. It was like about 9:30, and I went out and the ground was covered with this light dusting of snow on Halloween. crazy.
So then the next one is another ad from Baltimore Sun, Grim Fairy Tale. And then this one here, I just wanted to show this one. I kind of cut these ones off, but this is from the Atlanta Journal, but it played a lot in Atlanta, in like a whole bunch of
Yeah.
places, including some drive-ins down below, or at least the Starlight 6 drive-in. Which, yeah, like I said, I was surprised it actually got a theatrical release. And here's another one from the Miami Herald, playing at a
Really?
lot of places.
Why, Rigor?
Why what?
Why were you surprised that it got a theatrical release?
Because had read about it in Fangoria magazine when it was called Vengeance the Demon, and they were talking it up like anything. And I was like, oh, I got to see this. And then it never came to the theater. So I just always, and I lived in Boston, so I always assumed it just didn't get a major theatrical release. And apparently it did. I guess here's another cool one. I just like that poster.
That's pretty wicked, actually. I think I'm going to make a poster of that.
That'd be cool. A cool T-shirt too.
This was during a time too where a lot of these movies were getting released direct to video, especially if it was a lower budget film.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what the budget was for Pumpkinhead.
it was like 4 million. I read, right, Rigor? Am I off?
I read 3 million, and it made like 4.5 million at the box office.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really the kind of movie that you would expect to be a big film or a film studio would. So they would most likely put it out on video at this time. So that's why I was kind of surprised that it did get a theatrical release. That helped sell it to home video sometimes. Like sometimes the makers and distributors of the films would pay to have the film exhibited theatrically, even if nobody wanted it. Like they would rent the theater out and show it and run ads in the newspaper just so they could sell it to home video and say, well, it got a theatrical release. It's not that bad. So
that image on the poster of the claw on the girl's forehead, that was kind of an interesting thing in there. He wasn't completely mindless. Like he scratched her face, and then he carved a cross into her face, like mocking her, almost like, oh, boo hoo hoo, you believe in God, like that's gonna fucking, I don't give a shit if you believe in God or not, and you just ripped her fucking head off. And I love in the later on where the kid is like, oh, this is a holy place. They go into that old broken down church. It's like, you might not want to be here. And he stops in the doorway and he's looking at the doorway, and I'm thinking, oh, maybe the kid was right. And then he just marches right through it.
That's what I thought too. Yeah.
It's like, oh shit, it doesn't
matter.
That was
a shocker. Yeah.
And then he picks up the cross and he breaks it into pieces. And I thought that was interesting.
When he did that, my grandson was like, how did the cross not hurt him? I'm like, it doesn't hurt him. I don't know. I can't
explain. Just a piece of wood. He's not a vampire. I don't know.
Those aren't the rules.
Yeah.
So apparently it was released theatrically in October of '88, and then again in January of '89. It grossed 4.3 million, and then it got released on VHS in May of '89, which is pretty close. Back then, that's a pretty small window.
Yeah.
And then again in 1995 in April.
And that was the first time that I saw it in '95. I remember we were all like huddled up in the living room, and popcorn, those little nasty God, what were those things called? Like the popcorn balls. Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate those.
Yeah, those nasty things. And the wax lips, those two. Yeah, but they had us there, and we were watching that shit. And I will never forget it, like still to this day. Like I remember like being in the bathroom and hearing that music. Oh my God, dude.
God. So the dog in it was the dog that played Barney in the movie Gremlins.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
I liked that dog actually was convincing. Like when he growled, they did like, because sometimes in movies they just have the dog like, it's very unconvincing that he's, but this one was like his face was all tightened up, and he was, his mouth was like teeth in the front. He was growling, and I was like, damn. So he's acting in an unusual way because and he could sense the connection between Pumpkinhead and Harley real early on, because he was growling at Harley, and then later in the movie he growled at Pumpkinhead. But
moral to that, folks, is always keep a good animal if you are in fear of a dark spirit.
Yes. The cabin that the teenagers rented was also used in Friday the 13th Part 4 as the house Tommy's family.
Really?
Yeah. And then, as I mentioned, Lance Henriksen was in 2 of the sequels. They were both made for Sci-Fi Channel, so that's kind of tells you how.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He said that they were so shitty. I could just totally see him say that.
Right. In between, what
His
was
gravelly
that other
voice.
shit? Shark Week, Sharknado.
Sharknado. That's,
3-headed sharktopus.
That title is just like that's just like a when you say that title, it's just so ridiculously over the top that like it's a perfect way to if you're comparing another movie to it, or you're trying to get like a sense of what kind of movie something was, and you mention Sharknado, it's immediately like, I haven't never seen it, but just the title alone is like, oh my god, that's just so stupid.
I mean, it's like, if you look, if you appreciate a good camp film, which I'm sure you do, like that is what you like.
It's probably super entertaining because it's so dumb.
It is, because it's got like all of these like semi, entertaining people. I said semi-entertaining.
Semi-entertaining.
Yeah. Like Ian Ziering.
It's like Snakes on a Plane. It's so stupid that it's entertaining. The woman opens the barf bag and the snake comes up through the bottom and bites her in the face.
There's this group called Riff Tracks, which is comprised of 3 of the guys that used to be a Mystery Science Theater, and they basically goof on the movies, but you just don't see a silhouette. And I took my kids one time to see Sharknado theatrically because they were doing a live performance riffing on the movie, and it made the movie so much more enjoyable.
Yeah, I can just imagine.
What about you, Bill? Have you seen it?
Have I seen what?
Sharknado.
Oh yeah, I saw Sharknado.
I must be the only one who hasn't seen it.
It was exactly what I thought it was gonna be. It was like a live action cartoon with all this shit like.
That's a good way of describing it. Now, Michael, you got to watch it, man.
I got to see it now. And they made sequels to that too, didn't they? Make like 2 or 3 of them.
They overkilled what they could kill.
5.
Well, they got a good wave going for that online. There was a lot of good. People were talking about it, and it became sort of like a meme. Like Snakes on a Plane. You mentioned like that's the whole reason that Snakes on a Plane got made. Was because they got an online campaign going, and it became a cultural meme, and then people wanted it. So someone was like, we could make money with this.
Yeah.
You gotta get
go ahead.
Motherfucking snakes off this motherfucking plane.
God, look, now you're gonna make me
the reason
bust out laughing. Every time I see him, I just hear that and I just want to start laughing.
Motherfucker.
I'm a motherfucking Jedi Knight.
He definitely has a type that he plays.
Oh man, like, I mean, gee. Like
That's Samuel motherfucker Jackson.
And you don't actually see him doing something other than that in a movie, typically.
Pretty much.
And you know what's funny? He was in Goodfellas, and he was so like ordinary.
Mm-hmm.
He was?
Yeah, he got whacked.
Oh, that's funny. You know what I gotta say? I really, really liked Samuel Jackson in Django Unchained, where he played the older slave worker guy in the. He was so, to me, believable. Like that's one movie where I didn't think he was really playing himself. He kind of was, I don't know, he was a little scarier to me in that movie.
Well, trust me, there are a lot of old black men who just don't like younger black men because they move a little faster.
So he just, I don't know.
Anyway, I know a lot of grumpy ass old black men like that. Trust me.
I guess what sold this for Lance Henriksen was when he read the script, the whole scene where the little boy sits up in the truck and he goes, "What'd you do, Daddy?" He said the made the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end, and he's like, after that, he's like, I'm doing this,
Yeah. But like
I thought it was weird the edit. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead, Michael.
I was gonna say I really expected when he came back, after the accident with the boy, which I realized that without the accident, the plot wouldn't have happened. But like, there's 4 teenagers left. They see the dog running. They see the kid running in the direction of the bikes. They call to him, "Don't go." One girl starts running toward him. They all start running toward him. One girl trips and twists her ankle. Everybody stops to take care of her because she twisted her ankle. Nobody runs ahead to stop the kid. Like, there's like easily the guy or one of the other girls could have easily gotten to the kid in time, you know, if they had just fucking like, if you fall and twist your ankle, everybody around you doesn't like stop and try to like, you know, give you CPR or whatever. Just somebody get the kid, you know, like for Christ's sake.
They failed on every level.
And then when the father comes back, he comes up, he sees the boy on the ground. He doesn't even say what happened.
Right.
You know, like I kept waiting for him to say what happened. I mean, ultimately it doesn't matter. He knew something had happened and he took the kid away. And I was like, oh, he's going to the hospital. And then no, he just goes to his house.
And I like the fact that they weren't, with the exception of the one guy that was a dickhead, they weren't horrible teenagers like in a typical slasher movie where like, oh, who cares if they get killed off, you know. They felt bad. I think they handled it poorly. They should have left at least two of them behind, you know, instead of the one kid, because he assumed they just abandoned the kid.
Yep.
Yeah, they did.
I felt the total opposite.
Oh, really?
I felt the totally opposite from you guys because I just thought that the teenagers were so irritating. It wasn't even that they were irritating. It was just they didn't behave like human beings in it. I don't care if you're a reckless kid. Like, you're really probably not going to end up doing the kind of shit that these kids do in this movie. And I don't know, especially the dickhead guy. I mean, he's meant to be a dickhead. We have to hate him as the audience.
Right.
So, you know, that's what else are you going to do with a character like that? But I don't know. I just I thought that was the weakest part of the movie. I guess I could. That's probably a better way to put it. Is I thought that the kids were the weak part of the movie, and the rest of the stuff, the monster, the effects, Lance Henriksen and his tragedy over his son being killed, like that was the meat of the film, and the rest of it was
for sure
sort of dross to me.
Yeah, the way I see what you mean. Like a lot of the dialogue seemed kind of forced and unnatural. Yeah. I mean, there were some moments where I was like, oh, that was really good. You know, there was one of the women, as one of the girls in particular, I thought was really good consistently. Maybe she was the one at the end. She was the one I think who survived. And anyway, and I love how at the end he's like, well, wait a minute. Here's another thing that I just didn't get. You see Lance Henriksen realize that there's a connection between him and the Pumpkinhead because he's Lance Henriksen's coming out of the bar and he spikes his arm on the pitchfork and Pumpkinhead flinches the same arm, right? And so then he realizes, oh shit, you know, if I hurt myself, I hurt him. So he goes into the truck, he picks up a gun, points it to his head, pulls the trigger, you hear kaboom, and then he gets up and like walks out like out and falls down. Like, wait, he shot himself in the head. You don't get up and walk around after you shoot yourself in the head.
It's a movie death.
I know, but like
connected to the demon. I think that was keeping him still alive.
Oh,
it took more shots to finally kill him and Pumpkinhead, and even then, Pumpkinhead incinerated. But that's what I took away from it, was that because I did the same. I had actually forgotten the last third of this movie, and so I was shocked. But it's got to be he's connected to this magical being, for lack of a better term.
But okay. But to be devil's advocate, if that were the case, then why would Lance Henriksen accidentally stabbing his arm into a pitchfork? Why would that have caused such a reaction from Pumpkinhead if it was like it was? I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe it was proportionally less painful for him, but he just didn't expect it. And then I don't know. I felt like it would have been like, shoot himself through the chest, then okay, I can believe, all right, he's in the middle of bleeding to death and he goes out, and then finally. But I liked that the girl was, you know, she picked up the gun, and at first she turned toward Pumpkinhead with the gun, and the guy, and he was like, no, shoot me. And then she did.
And I love that little by little Pumpkinhead itself his face starts to look like Lance Henriksen.
More and more and more, yeah.
I thought that was cool.
Which is, again, back to living vicariously through your child. All of the metaphors. Sorry, I don't mean to go all, academia on Pumpkinhead there.
One last thing I wanted to mention about this was I thought it was funny. The oldest boy, the one from the family there that helps them. Well, first of all, I liked his motivation. He wanted to know if it was real, and he wanted to
You
know.
wanted to know, yeah.
Yeah,
That was cool, actually.
he's like, "What does it look like?" But his name was Bunt.
Bunt.
Yeah.
Who bunted?
And it's just, I just started laughing. I'm like, "Oh man, I just bunted." Yeah.
Did any of you guys have a chance to play the video game? I had it on
No.
98. I remember.
What was it on?
Well, originally it came out on Windows 95, but I was
Oh.
playing it on Windows 98.
I
So,
never did.
well, it like they had a DOS based version. I sound like such a fucking a DOS version. Lord help me, I'm letting my true colors come out. DOS. You know, DOS, guys, for people who don't know what DOS is, it's, you know, you're manually, you know, putting in what you want to happen or vice versa. But really, 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 really good game. Almost as good as Doom. Do you guys remember Doom?
I hated Doom because I got motion sick in that.
I was never into games, period.
Wow. You see my face just like,
Dude, I played Doom for hours and hours, and then I threw up, and I was like,
Wow.
"Oh man, I can't do this anymore."
wow. Okay. Well, it's on the same level, at least in my mind, in terms of graphics and stuff. It won't look good now, but I mean, because we're talking about a game that's 95. I can't remember the exact title. Rigor, you should probably look that up if you can.
What is it?
It was a video game. I don't remember the exact title. It might have been out on Sega and computer, but it was the Pumpkinhead video game.
Oh, okay.
Michael, you don't? No, you didn't hear it. You know, no, you haven't heard of this.
I don't know. The only
Oh.
video games I ever played were the real early fucking ColecoVision Atari ones.
Okay,
It was
Yeah,
Bloodwings,
you're-
Pumpkinhead's Revenge.
What is it called?
It's called Bloodwings, Pumpkinhead's Revenge. It's a 1995 PC.
Bloodwings.
Wee, yeah, that's right. One
It's
for
revenge.
me. I swear I had so much fun playing that game, but it was on PC.
It's
So-
a
I like the way I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was
no.
just saying it's a first-person shooter made by Electronic Arts for DOS.
Yep. One of their first games, guys. You might know Electronic Arts Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
Who else? I don't know. But anyway,
They've
yeah.
done tons of them.
Sorry, I'm just bouncing back.
Okay.
I really liked at the end how the witch buried what's his doodle in the same spot that he got the corpse from. So like next time around, if somebody wants to summon Pumpkinhead, they're gonna have to dig up the body of the last guy that summoned him because he's buried in the same spot, you know, to keep the whatever the mystical energy not alive, but keep it going so that, you know, if it ever comes about again, then could do it again. And that was, I mean, how long had it been since he was a kid? I mean, the body that was in there had rotted for like 20 years or something, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
possibly
Like,
anyway.
what, like 40 in this movie? So
Yeah. I really do think that the fight, like at the end when she kills Pumpkinhead and he bursts into flame, I kind of was wishing that the fire looked a little different from regular fire, because I understood that he was bursting into flame in like a mystical kind of way to show that he was really destroyed, but like she had already used the flamethrower on him and it didn't affect him at all. So I don't know, I just felt like if the flames had been green or something, it would have been like, okay, this is clearly, you know, like even more clearly visually, this is a different kind of fire. This is him, you know, being obliterated.
Right, like if they made it like a blue flame or something.
Something like that, yeah, like the purifying flame or
But
something.
it was only that incarnation of the monster that she destroyed, though. She didn't destroy Pumpkinhead the demon. She just destroyed that, you know, as long as Harley got reburied in the same spot, the possibility of Pumpkinhead coming back. It was a really good setup for a series by doing that, you know,
Right.
putting him back in the same place.
Supposedly they were gonna reboot it in the last few years. I think around 2018, and it just never came out.
Oh boy, if
No,
they,
but-
boy, you know, if they were to redo that now, oh man, I really think that this would easily, like, it would be one of the like most highly anticipated horror films of at least of the last 30 years, like, because it just has such a big cult following. I mean, and now I think it could even, I mean, a lot of those scenes that seemed forced, that that everybody probably agrees on, would come across a lot more natural, because you don't have the human element, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So that's we just Bill has stepped away for a few minutes, but let's do our final impressions on this. So Michael, why don't you go give us your final impression on Pumpkinhead from 1988?
I love it. Basically, because it's as I said before, it's a monster movie. It's a revenge movie. It's from the 80s. It's got Lance Henriksen, and I just it's just cool as shit. I love it.
Awesome. Dantes?
I am a huge fan of this film. Mostly, I hate to admit it, but Stan Winston is like, he's like my everything. I'm huge fan of all types of makeups, creative makeups and set designs, and this film just really gave me all of that and more. I think of the set design for this film almost on the same wacky scale of like a Tim Burton-esque dystopian, like fuck fest fantasy. Does that make sense?
Yes.
No.
It's
Not to me, it doesn't.
It's delightfully wicked in a good way. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
I enjoy Stan Winston, and I enjoyed a lot of Stan Winston just because of the makeup. I'm gonna reiterate, guys. The makeup is very, very impressive. I have not seen anyone cosplay as Pumpkinhead. That would be pretty cool. It'd take a lot of silicone makeup to do that. I might try that next year. But yes. Yeah, I think that would be really, really cool. But I definitely think this is a watch. If you guys have not seen Pumpkinhead, I would start with this one and forget everything else. All of the rest of them, they're okay, but this is it.
Yeah, kind of like The Crow.
Yeah, thank you.
The first one
arguing about it. We were just arguing about The Crow. Like, why would you even watch it other than, and I feel this way also too. And I know they've made, what are we on now? We're on like 4, Pumpkinhead 4. I think they just did another one in like 2017 maybe.
They were both made for Sci-Fi Channel.
No better than me.
That don't count.
Well, it was 2, 3, and 4, right?
Right. Yeah. But if it's on Sci-Fi Channel, I don't count that. I mean,
I'm kind of curious to see them, but I'm also afraid because I love Pumpkinhead as a concept and as a monster, but I don't want to watch a movie that's going to disappoint me. And
it's the Sci-Fi Channel, and I mean, Sci-Fi is still TV, and they can't cut someone's fucking head off. I mean, they're gonna.
3 and 4 were made in 2006 and 2007.
Okay.
So, I had a picture.
I just don't want to see it because you just told me now it was on Sci-Fi. So
it was made for Sci-Fi.
Yeah.
Oh God, even worse.
Yeah.
Whole topic of whatchamacallit. So all right. So Bill, do you have any things you want to say about Pumpkinhead and give your final thoughts?
Just that I liked it a lot better when I watched it later in life. When I first saw it, I wasn't crazy about it. I just thought it was a cool monster. And when I went back and watched it a second time, I appreciated Lance Henriksen a lot more at that time than I did when I first saw Pumpkinhead. I just thought it was, I think it's a decent film. It's definitely, I haven't seen any of the sequels. I really don't want any more Pumpkinhead in my life. I've got plenty with the first one. Thank you.
One and done.
Yeah. So I think that I've said everything.
If I were in Hollywood, I personally, if I was, in Hollywood, I heard that they wanted to do a remake, I would bid really hard to be the one who directed it and even like collaborate on the script, because I just love the whole idea of it, and it's just cool. It's such a cool mixture of elements that I'm really into, and I would be totally psyched to, helm stuff like this, something like that. But
That'd be cool.
I'm not in Hollywood, so it'll never happen. But I would love to do something.
Yeah, I love this movie. Like I said, we had read about it before it even came out when it was called Vengeance the Demon. And I watched it so many times back then that I didn't need to watch it again for the last 20, 30 years. And so watching it again this time was really fun. Like I said, I had forgotten the last third of it, so it was kind of cool to revisit it. Yeah, it holds up well. The creature effects are awesome. And yeah, I highly recommend it. I think if people want to see a good horror movie and they're still, on the fence about it, it's got just enough scares and just enough blood that it's not overly gory or overly horrific, yet some of the kill scenes are phenomenal in this movie. So if you haven't seen Pumpkinhead from 1988, check it out.
Yes,
definitely.
Right. So next up, we're going to talk about The Monster Club from 1981. Now, Bill, I know you just took a break. Do the rest of you guys need a break, or do we want to continue on?
I can keep going.
Okay.
I'm up in the air. I could go do either.
All right, so I'm going to read just an overall synopsis of the film. This is an anthology film, which is not produced by Amicus, surprisingly, although there are some jokes in there that do reference Amicus, and we'll get to those in a little bit. A vampire invites a horror writer to a secret club where monsters gather to drink and dance. He soon regales the amused man with 3 tales of terror involving a lonely creature, hunters of the undead, and a mysterious village. So first impression, all right, Bill, let's go with you because I'm sure you've seen. Oh, you said you didn't see this one before, right? Or
No, I've first saw this on TV in the early 80s. I think this
Okay,
movie
that's
is from 81.
Yeah.
Theatrically anyway. And I saw it on TV probably around 83 or 84, and it was on in the afternoon. And I knew about the movie already because I read about it in Famous Monsters. There was a nice profile on it in Famous Monsters magazine around the time, and then it was a big deal because it was going to be a horror anthology with actual monsters in it. But then when I saw it, I was like, none of these monsters make any sense. Like all of the familiar monsters were in the jokey sort of wraparound segment that we get where John Carradine is going to a monster club with Vincent Price. And I was sort of like mystified by that the first time I saw it, but I was really into it. I didn't want to like it at first. And then I thought like, wow, this is really good, especially I don't want to jump ahead or anything, but like the second story in the Monster Club, really, the one about the ghouls. Maybe it was the third.
It was the third one, yeah.
Yeah, it was scary. I thought it was really scary. So I dig this movie.
Cool. Michael, was this a first viewing for you?
First time I had seen it, yeah. I had no idea what to expect. And I liked it. I liked the 3 stories. I liked the fact that it didn't take itself super seriously, especially at the Monster Club when they went there and it was like a lot of people that were obviously wearing masks and stuff. And at first I thought, is this a bunch of people pretending to be monsters, or is this you're just supposed to suspend your disbelief to the point where, like, okay, these cheesy costumes are. But I didn't really care after a while. I was like, this is cool either way. And I was gonna say one more thing. What was it? Shit. The thing I loved the most about this movie was just watching Vincent Price and just listening to his beautiful voice. I love his voice. And just listening to him like say his lines and tell the stories and everything, it was like, it was so soothing. I mean, even though I was watching a horror movie, but it was just I was kind of like all nostalgic and like, oh, it's Vincent Price. Like I was so focused on that through the whole movie. But yeah, it was entertaining. It was fun. It's a fun movie. Yeah.
Nice. Dantes?
Okay. Well, my first time seeing this movie, to be honest with you. But when I saw Vincent Price, I knew it could go either way.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I mean, like, because he, I'm gonna call him Vince because he was so talented. The man was so fucking talented. He could be like suspenseful as hell, freak you out, and he could be very comedic. But when I first saw it, the first thing I thought was Rocky Horror Picture Show. What the fuck's going on here? Like, I'm like, what's going on? Am I in a joke or something? Like, is this supposed to be funny or like, I just, but I think maybe about 20 minutes into the film, and I realized that it was more of a comedy. I was sold. I like smart. I don't know. It sort of reminds me of gosh, what is the other film that we just reviewed that sort of had like a funny undertone to it, but it was a horror film, but it was
American Werewolf.
American Werewolf in London. Yeah, and that was, this film to me was sort of like the audience was in on a joke, and like you didn't know that you were in for a joke maybe until you got halfway through the film, because I was like looking at the box and the art, being a musician, I put a lot into that cover work. So before I even watched it, I just assumed that I was getting ready to have like the best time. I saw Dracula, I saw all of the classic movie monsters, so I just anticipated that this was going to be like something really awesome, because you don't really see all of those guys on screen together like that. But it was not that. So I it's adorable. How can you not love it? But at the same time, I just, yeah, I'll leave it at that. I don't want to jump ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I remember a buddy of mine and I, so we had to have been 81, 82. We were like 11 or 12. And, I went to his house. We had seen in the TV guide that it was going to be on channel 56, I think.
They let you watch that?
Oh yeah. My parents took me to horror movies my whole life.
Oh yeah.
And so we knew who Vincent Price and John Carradine were, and we're like, all right, we got to watch this. So I think I even had to convince my mother to pick me up, after 6, because the movie was on at like 4 or something. So we were sold, and I remember we enjoyed it. I did, even as a kid, I had a couple of minor issues with the movie, and we'll get into those later. But it's a Saturday afternoon classic. It's a great one to break out on a dark and maybe even a rainy Saturday afternoon to watch. And like you guys said, it's very fun. It's got some serious elements to it, but overall it's very fun. I enjoy this movie.
I enjoyed the music too. Sorry, or maybe that's just because I'm the musician.
I felt like some of the
soundtrack.
songs went
Right?
on longer than they needed to, but I guess that was part of the point. They wanted to showcase the
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, let's get back to the stories. But
it almost reminded me, a bit. I'm sorry, am I jumping a little bit? But I appreciate, even by that point in 81, that type of storytelling. We had seen, in the Twilight Zone and Alfred Hitchcock Presents. I enjoy that old school, sit down, let me tell you a tale. I enjoy that type of filmmaking, and I think that this was intentionally trying to be antique but fresh. I enjoy that. Even the music, everything, it harkens back to a time where people actually put more work into the script, making sure that the comedy, when it came, it it hits you over the head. It really is a work of art. But like I said, it sort of reminded me a little bit in the beginning, anyway, before I knew what I was getting into, of the Rocky Horror Picture.
Yeah. I can totally see that, the campiness and
I was like, oh, this is wonderful.
So this was directed by Roy Ward Baker, and I'd forgotten he directed a bunch of movies that are among my favorites: The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires, Vault of Horror, The Vampire Lovers, and he also directed Asylum, which was an Amicus anthology film that was the first horror movie I ever saw. I think I've told this a couple times on the show now. I was 1972, 2 years old, in the back of my parents' car watching Asylum. I vividly remember it. My mother and I thought it was called Chopping Heads for years after that. It took me a long time to find that movie.
I remember you talking about chopping heads. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great title.
That is that. I was just going
Somebody
to
should
say,
use
yeah,
that title.
There's this podcaster named Derek
Chopping
Cook, and
Heads.
when I told him the story on his show, he was like, "Man, if there's a movie starring Peter Cushing called Chopping Heads, I'm there."
How could you not see that?
Regardless of who's in it,
right.
chopping heads.
That's a great title, though.
It really is.
It would have, yeah, it would have been an awesome title. So, it was based on the works of a British horror author named R. Chetwynd Hayes, and no, it was it was Roy Wood Baker's final theatrical film. He did a few TV ones after that. It was also the final film from Milton Subotsky, who was best known for his work with Amicus Productions, who, like we said, they did a lot of anthology films. Bill, did you have any background on Roy Ward Baker or the writer or anything?
Not more than what you already said about the other movies that I'm familiar with that he created, going all the way back to Quatermass in the Pit.
Right.
He made that one, and there were a bunch of other, Hammer, Amicus, those kind of that sort. It's a very British film, The Monster Club is, and not only because that's where it was made, but there's just a very all of those movies had a very unique British character to them, and this is no exception. And Roy Ward Baker sort of, he was great at sort of, visualizing that kind of thing for a movie. He Dantes mentioned the soundtrack to the film, and there's a lot of great stuff in this movie musically. UB40 has a song in this movie. The Pretty Things
I love
are in this film. It's just it's bizarre. There's a band called Night that they were actually a real band. I thought maybe they were created just for this movie, but years ago I was looking into them, and they're the ones who do the song The Stripper, where the stripper takes off her skin and she's a skeleton dancing.
What's that was my favorite song in the thing. What are they called? Night, just Night? Night?
Yeah, Night is their name.
I wonder if it's on iTunes. Probably not.
They're sort of like, the band that was performing in Terror Train. It was New Year's Eve, and they were the band playing on the Terror Train.
Right.
I forget their name, but it was a one-word name, just like Night. And maybe even New Year's Evil had a couple of these bands. It was like this was very much of its time. If you wanted something like, hey, we want a movie with a new wave soundtrack, but we don't want to pay for anybody that's like really super well known. This was the kind of thing you ended up getting.
Yeah, and there was, as a kid, I found those scenes, and I hate to use this word, but I found them cringy. But now when I watch it, I love them. I thought they were great. And it was kind of, obviously 81, you were still coming off of that 70s high, so there was definitely a 70s influence, but at this point, one of the singers had the mullet with the collar up and stuff, and it was like, okay, we're getting into the 80s now.
I love good music. So
I really like the woman's that song, The Stripper. I really like the woman's voice. I don't think she I don't even know if she's the original singer or not. She was obviously lip syncing it in that scene, but it was still cool. I don't know. And then of course they did the animation with the skeleton at the end, which was quite good. Like a lot of the other the other monster things that were so cheaply done that I was kind of impressed that looked as good as it did.
Yeah, they did a good job with that there. And so let's just quickly go through the cast, and then I'll show some of the pictures I have from this. Of course, Vincent Price, as we talked about, you can't compare to him. We got to do a whole show on him.
Really do.
Oh my god,
he's so amazing.
Oh my god, it was unbelievable. John
Carradine too. Sorry.
Carradine's character is based on the author of this movie, and the author of this movie, and there's a lot of connections to I think it 1979 film Dominique, also known as Dominique is Dead. A bunch of these actors were in that, and he also Edward Abraham co-wrote this film. And our Chetwynd Hayes did the novelization of that movie too. So it was just funny though seeing John Carradine in this, because we just talked about him on The Howling, and man, he was in everything from like the 1940s on. And
Yeah,
I
you
didn't know
you
for
didn't really
sure.
make a movie if John Carradine was not in it somewhere.
what, Michael? Oh,
No, nothing. It's never mind. It's fine. It's
Michael.
not important. It's not important. I'm stretching my neck.
Oh, okay. We've got Donald Pleasance, of course, as Pickering.
Oh, I know. I was watching it. I went, Dr. Loomis.
Yeah.
Yelled it out.
And this, of course, is post Dr. Loomis because that was Halloween was 78, but he's just as nutty here, if not nuttier.
Yeah.
Oh man, but I love that whole Twilight Zone-esque aspect of it where he's the vampire hunter, and then all of a sudden, now, spoiler alert, he becomes a vampire because he gets bitten and they have to kill his buddies have to kill him.
Yeah. That would have been a cool scene in a more serious movie too. Like, you have to kill your friend because he changed. Although I guess it's been done.
Done in like zombie movies where you get
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, yeah.
Now the one actor here I wanted to mention was Stuart Whitman. He was the director in the third story where he was going off on his own to find a location for his film, and he came across this creepy old town. And that's Stuart Whitman. And when I was a kid and I'm watching it, I thought he was director Richard Donner because he was playing and I thought he was Richard Donner. And I didn't realize Stuart Whitman was, it
looks like Richard
Whitman
Donner.
looks just like him. And he was I think his most famous role was in John Wayne's Comancheros, which I have seen since then. But I thought it was cool to see him in this.
I thought he looked a lot like Donner as well. At first, I thought it was Stanley Kubrick. I don't know why. And then, which maybe because I have a erroneous image of him in my head, that's possible. But then I had the Richard Donner feeling too. And then I was like, wait, is this one of those directors, or is this like an actor who happens to look like them?
Right. And then, of course, we've got Britt Eklund, who played Mrs. Bosotsky, who was the mother in the vampire story.
Oh, yeah.
She's another British mainstay. She was in The Wicker Man, The Man with the Golden Gun.
Seen her and everything.
Asylum. She was also on now, Michael, you're gonna have to fill us in on this because I recognize the title, but I don't recall if I've ever seen it. There was a $6 million man TV movie called Wine, Women, and War. Can you shed any light on that? Because she was in that.
What's the year on? Do you have a year for that?
I don't. I can call it up quickly while
because I've been watching the box set of all the episodes of piecemeal over the last, I don't know, year or more here and there, and I'm in the last season now. But that sounds to me like something they did really close to the beginning. You can really tell that they were trying to go for a James Bond vibe. In the very beginning, there was like a 2-hour pilot movie or whatever, and then the first like so many episodes. So there was definitely, that sounds to me, Wine, Women, and War. That sounds very much like a James Bondish title, and I think it might have been during that time. The whenever the series began. I think whatever year it is, it probably coincides with the.
It's from 1973, and the description is: after Colonel Steve Austin fails to retrieve the contents of a safe owned by arms dealer Arlen Findletter, he takes up a friendly offer of a vacation in the Bahamas.
Yep. That's near the beginning of the series. Yeah. It's so blatant. Like when I watch it, I'm like, wow, you could tell. I could see the producers sitting in a room together and going like, we really want to go for like a James Bond. We need like a James Bond with a twist. He's got like a superpowers. He's got the bionics, but he's essentially travels the world, and he's handsome, and he meets all these women, and he solves all these international incidents, and that wasn't until like later that they started using the bionic sound effect, and it became more of a like more grounded, down to earth, like getting into fights and stuff kind of show, which is the show I liked. I did
Bigfoots and stuff.
Yeah, I didn't remember the early. I don't think I watched it when it was early. Well, I was like 4 years old or something.
I remember when the big bionic Bigfoot thing was on. That was a huge deal.
Oh my God.
Bill, do you
So
remember?
into
That was
that.
cool.
They were so Brokeback Mountain, Bigfoot and the Bionic Man. There was definitely a vibe between those two. I remember being a small child and watching that, and I was like getting turned on by the way they talked to each other, and like they were saying "I love you."
That's funny.
There was a machine where Bigfoot's thoughts were like printing out as written, and they were like confessing their love to each other. I was like, "Wow, this is heavy."
Brokeback Mountain. Wow, that's okay.
That's interesting there.
I would have thought
Bigfoot.
it was more of a broken arm mountain because doesn't he rip bionic Bigfoot's arm off?
Britt Eklund's married to Rod Stewart, isn't she? Or at least she was.
I think she was. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I think they're still married. No. I don't remember. Rachel Ward is the other woman he was married to, I think.
Right. And speaking of that, we also had Simon Ward, who played her boyfriend. I'm sorry, not her boyfriend. He was the boyfriend of the chick in the first story about the Shadmock. And he was in like basically all the 70s Three Musketeer films there were, as well as Dominique, that film Dominique. And I remembered him from Zulu Dawn from 1979 with Michael Caine. That was
I remember that title. I don't think I saw the movie, but I remember.
It's basically
Yeah.
going up against, it's like Braveheart going up against an army of Zulu warriors that are just insane and unstoppable. And it was just a terrifying movie.
Thanks. I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, Zulu Dawn.
What year was that?
Betamax, actually.
Betamax. Oh my God. Betamax. Oh my God. Laserdisc.
Yeah, I don't have that on Laserdisc, although.
Laserdisc.
I remember when you got your Laserdisc player, man. I remember that was like a big event.
And like
so
halfway through the movie, you had to get up and flip it over.
Hey, look now. See, I love Laserdisc. Like, I actually I spent a great deal of money trying to find one, and I did. And I'm so excited. And the very first movie that I have is Dracula with Gary Oldman.
Oh, 92.
Oh yeah, how beautifully gothic that film is. I love it. I'm just so excited that I get to get up and flip it over.
I saw that movie on opening night, and we got there so late we had to sit really close in the first row in the theater.
Oh wow!
And you had to choose where to look on the screen because that movie is so visually overloaded with imagery. Yeah. It's just like, textures, colors. It's sumptuous, to say the
very
least.
scrumptious.
Michael, were you with me when we saw, I think it was Rambo 3, and we had to sit in the front row, and Stallone's head was just like this giant triangle?
Yes.
You're like, what the hell?
Yes. And I think that further cemented your commitment to not ever be late for a movie. Because we had no choice but to sit in the front row. We were like, fuck.
Those are the worst seats.
For me, fourth or fifth row center is the best. Yep. I hate stadium seating. I refuse to sit way up in the back. Because it's like the screen should fill your field of vision comfortably. So right. Fourth or fifth row center, it does that. Up front is too close, and way back, you see all these heads getting up to go into the bathroom. You see the exit sign. Like, I don't want any of that. I want just the movie.
And I don't mind the sound like blowing the skin off the top of my head. Like, that's totally fine with me. Like,
yeah.
If I'm there and it's like I'm that close to the screen, the speakers are blasting, I'm like, that's fine.
So I come to the theater. The actor I wanted to touch upon here was James Lawrence, and he played Raven, aka the Shadmock. And he was in a bunch of stuff, but the one that stood out to me was he played Pink's father in Pink Floyd's The Wall. So I thought that was interesting.
Interesting.
Father.
And let's go to
some
Dingleberries. All right, so this is the only this is the only actual newspaper ad I could find for this movie.
That's a pretty accurate. Like, that image tells me that it's going to be silly.
Yeah. You meet some interesting people and hear some great songs at the Monster Club.
You did the mash.
John Williams is on the soundtrack here.
I know, I saw that.
Great. Yeah, I mean, you got John Williams, you can't go wrong.
Seriously.
B40.
And but see, but that's why the soundtrack was so cool because you had like all this modern, modern stuff that was going on at the time, like the new wave and little
Pretty things.
yes. And then you have a splash of the old classical with John Williams. You can't go wrong.
So what does this say here? I can't read. The horror film that's fun, starring. Okay, that's got everybody there. And then we've got what's up next? Oh, this is from. We don't have to read everything, but I just thought it was kind of cool. It's from a magazine called Photoplay Movies and Video Monthly from 1981, and someone actually posted this on Twitter. So I had to piece them together. There's actually 3 pictures in the middle here that are gone because they were kind of cut off, and I didn't feel like putting it in. But there's come on, this is what happens to the girl from the Shadmock.
For her.
There's the dude, and then there's
You got a chemical peel.
Richard Donner.
And then of course Donald Pleasance over there, and Vincent Price over here, and John Carradine. And then here's lobby card from the movie. The vampire, the author, and a werewolf look on and view all the ghastly horror as everyday normalcy.
That's the most hilarious werewolf I've
Really
ever
is.
seen. And so it's like you could tell they glued chunks of cotton to the guy's face. Oh God, this is so
His
damn
hair
funny.
was perfect.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he kind of looks like Kelsey Grammer's version of Beast. Remember when Kelsey Grammer was?
Yeah.
I actually didn't hate that. I just wish that they had done more.
And more of it. Yeah, that's a topic for another day. But
Yeah.
here's still shot. I didn't actually take the screen grab. I found it online.
That must be toward the end when he's talking about how humans are monsters.
Yeah.
Yes. Which that
He
was
has to make a case for why John Carradine should be admitted to the
Yeah,
monster.
that was a good speech, actually.
And then I love that the table's a coffin.
Yeah.
And then there's the Shadmock, which he kind of looks like Shemp. I always
Yeah.
thought he was Shemp.
He's supposed to be like this crazy, hideous person, but I don't think he looked that bad.
Right. Not,
Like
he's
a-
not as hideous as they described him.
Bad haircut and pale skin.
So here we've got the whole is this everything, or is this the Shadmock?
Yeah.
Oh, there he is. He's right there. Okay.
Yeah.
So see if I can jump over and read the I have it in my notes here. What Vincent Price describes. Where is it?
Oh God.
Okay. First of all, there are the primary monsters like vampires, werewolves, and ghouls. The following are what you get when certain monster types mate. Vampire and a werewolf makes a werevamp. Werewolf and a ghoul makes a weregoo. A vampire and a ghoul makes a vamghoul. Are you with me so far? Weregoo and werevamp makes a shaddy. A weregoo and a vamgoo make a maddie. Werevamp and vamgoo are ratty. We're almost done. Shaddy and ratty or maddie equals a muck, which is just a polite name for a muck. And then this is the best though. He goes, Vincent Price's character Erasmus explains the genealogy is based on the following basic rules of monsterdom: vampires suck, werewolves hunt, ghouls tear, shaddies lick, maddies yawn, mocks blow,
Oh man.
and shadmucks whistle. And then of course, what is a shadmuck and how is it so terrible? Because it's a mock plus any other hybrid makes a shadmuck.
Oh gosh.
that alone, like that attention to detail that they put in this, like always kind of sold me.
Yeah,
Even if I didn't remember what anything was,
that's funny
and then is that
and logical too.
oh yeah, this was just another poster I found online. And I found this on TV, and I thought it was just kind of cool just to see what else was playing, because you had the Monster Club, which I like this description. Excuse me. This was from the Buffalo Evening News from September of '82. Monster Club's a collection of vampires, werewolves, and other weird creatures gather for fun amid flashing lights and rock music. Vincent Price. Vincent Price. High with Cliff crushed. Bobby on the ropes, Clayton out of the way, and Sue Ellen accepting his attentions. Oh, you know what? That's a
What
mistake.
the fuck?
I cut and pasted these, and that was a description of something else.
Accepting his intentions.
I was like,
Oh,
what
we got-
in the bloody hell?
We got the whole spiel.
That's
But then
awesome.
you had Godzilla on at 2 a.m, Godzilla's Revenge on at 3:20, and then Rodan on at 4:35, and that's a great.
No,
I
I'm
sent
gonna
you an
stay
ad on
all night and
Facebook.
watch all of this.
Exactly.
Look at the dude's name down where under 4 a.m. emergency survival on Charter 220. Randolph Mantooth.
Yeah, he's the main character on Emergency.
Oh,
Mantooth.
Emergency?
Mantooth. Oh.
I knew of it, but I didn't really watch it.
Oh, yeah.
Mantooth.
He's
That's a
been in
hell of a
tons of
name.
stuff. He's like a I think
Never
he's
really.
like part Native American in real life.
Mantooth.
Never
Oh, okay.
And then we got just some more. This was another one. This was kind of cool looking. Just another night where there's no sleeping because you got White Zombie, the Ghost Breakers with Bob Hope, the Monster Club, Count Yorga, which I'm doing a blog on that soon, and Death Dream.
Death Dream.
Oh wow, I love that movie.
And,
Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Jeff Goldblum.
oh yeah,
Really?
1979.
Huh, you learn something new every day. I'm gonna have to look at that. Jeff Goldblum, huh? Who knew he could he carry a movie like that? I mean,
Well, he kind of has a Ichabod-ish look about him, I guess.
you know, okay, yeah, maybe that was ignorant of me saying that. I can see him, but wait, but you got to remember now, the Jeff Goldblum I grew up with has wiry glasses and sort of talks a lot and is sort of, you know.
He hasn't changed all that much.
But I don't think I could sit through a horror movie with him because I also too Jeff Goldblum today, I think of Thor. Do you remember his character in Thor?
Yeah.
The Grandmaster.
Well, what about
God.
The Fly? He was The Fly. I mean,
Fly,
that's a horror movie.
And that's
He's
hard to
body
believe
snatcher.
that's the same guy, though. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
he's so far removed from The Fly, is what I'm trying to say. Like,
Yeah.
I can't enjoy him really unless it is The Fly. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but
Well, I mean, he was in the remake of the Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which was also that was 78, so that was pre Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't solely on Goldblum's back, is what I'm saying. The whole film.
That's
Yeah.
true. Well, we'll have to check that out. If we can find it, we'll talk.
That'll be a good one. Yeah. The Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
Hold on, I skipped one by accident. Hello.
I think this is so cool how you find these.
I did a lot of searching because there was when I was doing the search in the newspapers, this thing called Cookie Monster Club kept coming up. No, I just want the Monster Club. Oh, now this one was playing. This would be a tough one as a kid. I would be switching back and forth at the commercials between Legend of Hell House with Roddy McDowell and the Monster Club with Vincent Price and Donald Pleasence.
I have to see The Legend of Hell House. It sounds good because I know who Roddy McDowell is, so I don't.
Yeah. That's a good one.
73.
And then this one, the review, and this was from a British paper, the Daily Mirror. You'll laugh more than shudder at the antics of assorted vampires and ghouls in the Monster Club. Club owner Vincent Price introduces a new member to his establishment and regales him with 3 tales of the supernatural. And then it goes on. But this is funny. When a Shadmock turns nasty, he roasts his victim quicker than a chicken on a spit. Despite the efforts of a starry British cast, the stories have all the bite of a toothless crone.
Ouch.
And I guess that's it. That's the last of those. So
I enjoyed the stories. I thought the stories were. It was lighthearted and it was comical. You know, it was a horror movie that you could take your children out to see and your wife and feel good when you go home.
Yeah. It's funny because my wife was away this week and I had to watch these for the show. So I watched Pumpkinhead with my grandson, and then this one. It took us a couple of nights because he goes to bed early. We both went to sleep super early all week. But he enjoyed this one too. It was funny. He's asking questions about it. The best though was when the cat got fried by the Shadmock.
Yes, that was great. I always wondered, Al. I guess he could like target the whistle so that it wasn't like anybody who heard it. He was pointing it straight at the cat and straight at the woman.
Right, because like all the people in the party heard it.
Yeah, but they didn't. Yeah.
The comedy is just brilliant in this film.
I just remember like the Shadmock story. I always thought that one was creepy. I liked that it had that depressing 70s horror ending.
Yes.
Which her face is just melted and then he goes nuts when he sees her. Oh man. All right. So here's one. The one nitpick that I had even as a kid was in the vampire story, the stake-proof vest.
Yes, makes no fucking sense.
Makes no sense because they pounded it so deep into his chest.
Right. It goes through. Yes.
That always bothered me, even as a kid. I'm like, I just felt that undermined the whole credibility of the story. If they had just done it, I don't know,
without that line,
right, or just didn't hammer the stake in that far, then you could believe, well, maybe it's like an instinct or something, Stake-proof vest.
Yeah,
tomato ketchup.
Okay, well, it does suffer from a little bit of the time, but I mean.
Yeah. I have a feeling like on paper that sounded really cool.
But yeah.
Right.
And then the ghoul storyline, that even this time around watching it, very Twilight Zone-y, it scared me. I'd forgotten a lot about it.
That was my favorite story, actually.
Yeah. So whilst in a church, the director discovers the terrifying truth of Lothville. Centuries before, a swarm of ghouls invaded the village, mated with the humans, and made their nest there. With the aid of Luna, the director attempts to escape and almost succeeds, only for Luna to be killed by the ghouls and the director captured again and returned to the village by ghoul policemen. See, I thought they were vampires, the cops, but I guess they were ghouls.
We're still looking. I'm sorry. I'm still looking for the Jeff Goldblum. I think it's on YouTube.
Really?
Oh.
Or, yeah.
Check the Jeff to Just Watch out.
Retro Media. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to.
Retro Media finds.
Ooh, post the link in the Zoom chat.
Yeah.
Subscribe.
Cool.
Legend of Sleepish Hollow.
Go back one.
As much as I can't stand Johnny Depp, I did like the Tim Burton Sleepy Hollow movie.
There's something magical.
Can't stand what?
Those two come together.
Johnny
Tim
Depp
Burton and Johnny Depp.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
Ed Wood is a great movie, but Johnny Depp just pisses me off as a human being because he lives in France. It's like, I'm not taking my kids to America till they cease their barbaric ways. Well, then stop taking our fucking money at the box office, Oh
my God. I there's something magical just about all of that stuff. When you combined comedy and horror together, not very many people actually have that skill. And the British do that shit so fucking well. Really, 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 really well.
Oh yeah.
Really well, dude.
Yeah. We're gonna have to do another show where we talk about some of the other anthology films, especially the Amicus ones.
Dude, the Hammer films.
Yeah, did Hammer do any anthologies though? I mean, we are gonna actually on Then Is Now, we're gonna be talking about the Hammer films pretty soon.
Cool.
Yumi and my co-host Chris, but and anybody else who wants to join in. But I thought there was something more about. Okay, yeah, there was a bunch of in-jokes relating to Amicus films, which Amicus was sort of a knockoff of Hammer. Like the character of Linton Basotsky is a film producer, and his name is an anagram of the real film's producer, Milton Subotsky. Basotsky introduces a film called From Beyond the Tombstone, which is an allusion to From Beyond the Grave. And the cast includes Patrick McGee, Britt Eklund, and Jeffrey Ballard, and all of whom were in Asylum from 1972. And there's a reference to a producer named Dark John, which many Amicus films were made by John Dark. So I like when things put jokes in there that not necessarily everybody's not going to get, but I mean, not necessarily everybody's going to get,
Right.
but when you find them out afterwards, it's kind of neat. All right, so let's do. Oh, wait a minute. One last thing. Oh, the author of this film, actually, he was disappointed. He didn't like the humor because some of the things got rewritten. He felt only Goulsville was faithful to what he wrote. He hated the pop music, and he thought John Carradine was too old to play him.
Wow. Wow. I could imagine this script actually probably being a hell of a lot more lewd, and they probably did tone down the original vision. I can totally see that.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I just, I mean, like, I'll like, this was my first time seeing this movie, but I just sort of got the feeling that they were directing a lot of the jokes and the comedy towards the adults. It wasn't really for the kids. I think a lot of that stuff, maybe now they would probably get some of the jokes, but some of the stuff I would imagine probably will go over their head.
Yeah.
Right. So, all right. So let's give our final thoughts. Bill, one quick thing I wanted to ask you, and then you can segue into your final thoughts on this movie. What was your opinion of the stake-proof vest?
It was cheating. It was absolutely cheating because how in the fuck could you have a stake-proof vest? I mean, what is it, like a female condom or something? I don't know. It's kind of it's kind of sketchy. I did not believe it for 1 second.
Right.
But I love that segment because I didn't want the vampire dad to die. Nobody did.
Right.
It was like a hokey. It's like Roger said, it sounded good on paper, probably when they wrote the line. They were like, that'll be funny. But it's like, for those of us who want like a modicum of believability, even in a funny situation, it was like, no.
So, Phil, your final thoughts on the Monster Club from 1981, 83. I'm sorry, no, 81. Yeah,
it was 81. Yeah.
Wow.
I really dig it. I think it's not what you would expect it to be. It wasn't what I wanted it to be when I was a kid, but after I got over that, I watched it again and I was like, this is actually kind of interesting. And I love the story about the town full of ghouls. I thought that was really scary and well done. The other ones are kind of, maybe like Night Gallery, Tales from the Dark Side, that kind of stuff. But the ghoul segment really did seem like a theatrical horror film.
Yeah, that was too.
It looked good. It was well shot, and
yeah, it was creepy, and a lot of it was shot in daylight too. It was daytime scary.
Right.
It's an interesting achievement for a horror film.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah,
I just thought about that. That's true.
So, Dantes, final thoughts on the Monster Club.
I love this movie, only because my first thoughts were music. I also appreciate the subtle queer references that are in the film. The campiness of it. I think this is a good introduction to Vincent Price to those who may not be aware of Vincent Price. It has the perfect amount of what makes him great. So that I will say.
Nice. Michael?
Yeah, I had never seen it before. Thought it was cute. I think Dantes used the word adorable earlier. It's fun. It's kind of cute. The biggest thing for me was just, kind of basking in the greatness that is Vincent Price and just really enjoying him. The stories individually were pretty cool. I mean, they were interesting enough to hold my interest. And I agree with Bill that the third one is the creepiest. And yeah, I'm not sure that I'll necessarily seek it out to see it again, but I'm glad that I did see it.
Nice. Yeah. I had, like I said, I had some nitpicks about this. But it's one I definitely fondly remember from my childhood. I really enjoyed watching it again this time around, as I hadn't seen it for a while. And it goes along well with a lot of the other anthology films that were in the future. We're gonna have to talk about some of these other ones from the 70s, because for the most part they're well done. And you know what, with an anthology film, and we're gonna find that out pretty soon when we discuss our third film tonight, is sometimes they could be hit or miss, but you've got, a chance of 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 4 that one of them's gonna, be killer. So
Yeah.
so all right, that's it. We're gonna take a quick break here. I'm gonna put the 5 minute break thing up.
Okay.
And then when we come back, we're gonna talk about Twilight Zone, the movie from 1983.
Yeah.
Do that.
I love that movie so much.
Ah.
Hey, let me
Okay. And we're back. I wanted to just take a quick look at Facebook to see if our viewer Frank may be on one of the other pages. Folks, I should have mentioned this too at the beginning. This doesn't just broadcast to the Fright Lounge page and YouTube. It also broadcasts on a couple of other pages. It broadcasts. There we go. Oh, all of Frank's comments were on the Then Is Now podcast page.
Oh,
Um,
sorry, Frank. I had the Fright Lounge one open on my phone. I didn't open the other one.
Yeah, I didn't think of it either. So he wrote
The Fright Lounge one open on my phone.
oops.
he wrote a bunch of quotes, and I apologize for not seeing these sooner, Frank. I feel like the first guy to get killed had something to do with the rest of the story, just not just to serve as an intro to Pumpkinhead. Okay, so he's talking about Pumpkinhead there. And then Monster Club loves the punk frontmen. Yes, because we were talking about the punk music there. There's a 3-minute long take of the lead singer, Sucker for Your Love. 3 minutes. Why? And of course, yeah, he says Carradine and Pleasance in the same movie. He gives it well, he doesn't give it thumbs up, he gives it 2 of these. And then he said, "Oh, Mr. Frost. Yes, that's a Jeff Goldblum horror film. More recent." And it says there's 7 comments, but Bill, are you able to see any more for some reason?
No. Well, I'm still only looking at the Fright Lounge page.
Okay, yeah, I'm on the Then Is Now podcast group. And let me see if I can switch over to this computer here and open it up there. But thank you for joining us, Frank. I apologize for not having answered you earlier. I'm going to call up. What am I looking for? Oh, I've got to get out of. Wait a minute. What did I say the other page? Oh, it's my personal page. Let me go to my personal page to see if there's anything on there. And I gotta click on it. Where's me? There's me. And nope, no comments on there. Okay, cool. At least as far as I could tell. Oh, but I wanted to look at the Then Is Now podcast group. That's what I wanted to do, and see if I can see all of the comments. I don't know why it is when we're live, I can never see all of the comments. It's really
Frank
weird.
he said he went to the Fright Lounge page. Also, you got some porn spam in that group.
Oh, good Lord. Oh, yeah, I see that now. All right, I'm going to delete
Yeah, I see some doggy style right under that post.
I'm going to remove it.
Naughty, naughty.
Okay. All
That
right,
was funny.
It's where you come in the middle of a conversation and you missed what preceded it.
Yeah.
Doggy style. I came in on doggy
Whatever
style.
you imagine is going to be better than the truth.
All right, that's fair.
Here we go. View 6 more comments. Oh, wow, that's weird. It's not showing me all 8 comments. It's only showing. You can only get real-time comments or most relevant comments. Oh, that's weird. Well, I apologize.
Yeah, Facebook sucks.
That's stupid. All right. So, why did this not? Oh, I thought okay, good. I did delete that. All right. Damn porn. How did that even get by Facebook? Usually they're pretty, militant about those kind of things.
The moderator must have been okay with it being there.
I didn't even notice it till you pointed it out. All right. Okay, so we're all here, right? I can't see us all. Oh, there we are.
Yeah,
okay.
We're here.
Twilight Zone, the movie from 1983. I'll give a quick synopsis and then we can break down each one as we get into it. But basically, it's a tribute to the beloved Twilight Zone TV show. And there's 4 short stories in this, plus a wraparound sequence. In the first story, racist Bill Connor, played by Vic Morrow, is transformed into a Jew in World War II. Next, Mr. Bloom, played by Scatman Crothers, comes to a retirement home to teach the residents that they're only as young as they feel. In the third one, you've got a teacher named Helen Foley, played by Kathleen Quinlan, and she meets Anthony, a little boy who is not what he seems. And finally, we've got a panicky plane passenger, John Valentine, played by John Lithgow, who sees gremlins attacking his flight. And the stories, of course, are bookended by a prologue starring Dan Aykroyd and Albert Brooks, and an epilogue with just Dan Aykroyd and John Lithgow. So, first impressions, Dantes, why don't you go first on this one?
First impressions, to be honest with you, I had always sort of overlooked this movie just because of the tragedy that happened to Vic. I've never been able to get past that that first scene with him, just because I know what happens or whatever. So this is the first time that I've actually like watched all the way through. And first impressions are, I knew I was in for a fucking ride when Aykroyd first popped up on the screen. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, I feel like I'm being punked here, or I'm being pranked. What the fuck is Dan Aykroyd doing here? Right? And then he goes, oh, I want to show you something. And I was like, oh, fuck, the movie is just starting. So I love it. Roller coaster, a lot of different emotions. My favorite story, I think, probably would be I like the story about the nursing home. That one really touched me. Really touched me a lot. I'm like, boy, everything doesn't have to be all blood and guts in order to get the message across.
When did you first see this, Dantes?
This was my first time actually seeing this movie all the way through. Prior to tonight, I always would stop after Vic's segment, just because of, like, I don't know, just something about looking or listening to stuff that people did prior to them transitioning just sort of doesn't sit right with me, so I never could get past it. But that story also, too, I think, is probably the more potent of the four. Was it four stories that yes. we had in this film? Because we're sort of dealing with like this migrant crisis and shit that's going on now. All of the big cities and big states and stuff. So I really enjoyed that story, along with the story of feeling youthful and retaining your youthfulness and being young in mind. And so those two for me really did it. Yeah, first time though, absolutely loved it. I am a long time, and guys, when I say long time, like, I am not joking. Like, I have like the full DVD collection of the Twilight Zone. I have Night Gallery. Like, I am like in love with Rod Serling. So I tried to go into this knowing how it should be, but was pleasantly surprised because it was updated. It was updated a lot, and I appreciated the 80s-ness of it. It was so current. Like, as soon as I saw John Lithgow, I said, oh shit, this must be Nightmare, but I liked, seeing it in a modern setting. And I guess I can still call that modern, right? Because that was only like 40 something years ago.
Right.
It's definitely modern to us.
To us, yes.
That's modern. Like, okay. But yeah, I enjoyed it. So thanks again for the good pick. We both enjoyed it. So
awesome. Michael.
I trying to remember if I saw this in the theater or not. I kind of feel like I did, but the only part that I remembered was the last story about the thing on the wing of the plane. In fact, I think I may have seen this with my dad. I don't know why, but anyway, yeah, the only story that I remembered was the monster on the wing of the plane, which is probably because I tend to focus on monsters as a general rule. And then I remember the funny, tagline at the end. You want to see something really scary? Which I thought was really great that they came back around to that after the beginning. This time watching it, I enjoyed the first part, even though I was thinking you could never make that segment today. But the two middle ones, like, I get that the Twilight Zone series, that the episodes had different tones, but I feel, for me, and I knew going in that it was an anthology, but for me, there was The second story was just a little too mellow and Peter Panish for me. And then the third one was kind of scary, but mostly just fucking irritating. And then finally we got to the last part, which was the best one, I think. So I don't know. I had a mixed reaction this time around, I guess.
Interesting. Bill.
This is another one that I remember not liking when I was a kid. I was 12 years old when this came out, and it really I was looking for slasher movies and gore and the Twilight Zone, oh, what's that? So I think I caught it on HBO, and now that I look back on it, I regret not having seen this in a theater because I think it would play a lot better theatrically than it does on TV, where it sort of really does reduce the material back to a TV show. If you would see it on your television set, at least the ones we had in the 80s when this first played on home video, and HBO, I think, is the first place I saw it. I do think it's pretty well done. As looking back on it and having seen it more recently, and maybe like in the last 5 years, I think I watched this, and it's really the part with the Lithgow on the plane is really scary, because I don't know if any of you have ever been there, but I used to be really afraid when I would have to fly, and I got over it. After having done it a couple of times, you realize you're not going to die by going in this plane. But I could totally relate to what he was going through anyway.
And that was an episode in the original series, wasn't it? With Shatner?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nightmare 20,000 feet.
Gosh, see, actually, I'm going to go in my DVD drawer behind me here and pull out my tin can.
A tin can?
Pull out my tin can here. My tin can DVD Twilight Zone collection here. Oh, look, there's Night Gallery there. Ooh.
Oh, I love Night Gallery.
Yeah.
Okay, that's that. I gotta find the Twilight Zone now. Sorry, guys. I know this is so bad, probably, but I have Nightmare actually on DVD, and I was supposed to have all of this stuff out for you guys, but I was running late, so I apologize.
No worries.
But it's so interesting to see two different takes on that, because when Shatner did that, that was like 56 or 57, right? Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and just looking at like the plane, and those guys did really good even in the series, capturing like what a modern airplane at the time looked like. So as soon as he shot do you guys remember when he shot out the window there? And
yeah.
And I can't help but just look at everything around. I'm such a stickler for details and stuff like that. And I'm just looking, I'm like, that looks like a real Boeing. Like that's a real Boeing. And they really tried their best to incorporate as much modern technology into the film, just shy of a big brick cell phone. Like, I mean, and that to me, at least in my mind, I feel like that's why they keep trying to reboot it, and they've always done it so awfully. Did you guys catch that? I know this is off subject too, because after I watched this, I did go try and stomach the Forrest Whitaker TV version that they tried in the early 2000s that was just so abysmal. But I think that's why they keep trying, to reduplicate it, and why we're even still having a talk about it is because it is the most simplistic form of entertainment, writing, sound. That's what the Twilight Zone is. Back like what Bill was saying, you're expecting gore and people getting their fucking heads knocked off. Like that's the type of shit I liked growing up too. So the Twilight Zone, this was definitely not something that, even now, like my love affair with the Twilight Zone, this would not have been possible, at 15 or 16, Dantes watching the Twilight Zone, because it's just too fucking slow. Excuse me. You got with this, you got to really wait for the satisfaction. Like, and even like watching this, like with my spouse, right? Because I grew up in the 90s, so I sort of know, like with the X-Files, stuff like that, you have to wait for your satisfaction. You gotta wait for it, you know.
Yeah.
And like even like with my spouse, seriously, like we were watching this, and he's like, you know, I'm gonna go cook something, and I'm like, no, you're gonna miss it. The satisfaction is about to be had, and you're gonna miss it because you're cooking food. You know,
I hate that. I hate when they walk away right when the shit's gonna start happening because they're so bored with it. They
Yeah.
just can't even deal with it anymore. Like, no, you're almost there. Don't leave yet.
Yeah. And this is, you know, and this is why you know, I can't find it now. I'll have to try and find it, you know, in a little bit. But like I have always liked the hidden agenda of the moral in the stories. And usually with the Twilight Zone, there's always a or a, you know, but I didn't get that from this version. I didn't feel like I didn't get that Rod Serling parental feeling of the moral after these stories. You guys,
Right. And that was when Serling's big deal was he wanted to tell these tales and they wouldn't let him tell them back in the 50s and 60s. So he thinly veiled it in sci-fi and horror.
Yeah, because I really feel like he was trying to express like his frustration with the shit that was going on around him. You know, you know, in the 50s and 60s, like we take so much shit for granted. We really do now. But back then, like I just couldn't imagine, you know, being able to deal, you know, not be able to confront, you know, issues like racism head on and just be like, hey, you know, can we just all hold hands and just, you know, just peace and love? And, you know, you couldn't do that. You had to, you know, find these, you know, these weird ways to get your message across to people. And the Twilight Zone and gosh,
Outer Limits.
Outer Limits. Outer Limits even more so though. That now the Outer Limits was your satisfaction was being had a lot sooner with the Outer Limits.
Yeah. That had its own vibe going.
Yeah. Totally. But I just enjoy that they were able to bring it, you know, bring it home. You know, this movie came out in 81. You know, I came, you know, shortly thereafter by plus or minus, you know, 8 or 9 years. You guys do the math. But
you're killing me.
You know, but you just learn to see what the vision is by going to the past. So I did a little preparation for this movie by watching some of the older ones. So when I started watching these, I automatically knew where the references were, you know, were coming from. Even the nursing home segment, I believe they did do an episode, not about nursing homes, but I believe about the people wanting to be younger and stuff like that. So
yeah, it was a direct remake of Kick the Can.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was an original episode.
Okay, so I'm thank you. Like I feel so validated in my oldness because I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, I feel like I've seen this before, and I could not find it because I'm not joking, guys. Like I have the whole entire season.
Oh yeah, there's a lot to it. Bill, did we already ask you your first impressions of this movie? I'm
sorry.
I
already gave my
okay.
First.
You're on mute, Mike Hill.
Shit, sorry. I thought I had unmuted myself, but apparently I hadn't. So, I wasn't saying anything that important. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw this in the movies. This was 83, actually. I think I misspoke when I said 81, but Twilight Zone was always big in my house growing up, and we were so excited to go see this. But I remember my mother telling me about the whole debacle with director John Landis, which we'll get into in a little bit, that was unfolding at the time it was released. But I just remember really enjoying it when I first saw it, and I liked it even more now this time around. There was a lot, especially I think the Kick the Can one is probably my favorite of them all. Now, Dantes, you and I had talked about this previously when we discussed American Werewolf in London on Then Is Now podcast, so I'll try and be brief here. for those who don't know, the film achieved notoriety because John Landis was directing the whole the racist one with Vic Morrow, and there was a sequence where these helicopters, he's supposed to be in Vietnam, and he grabs these two kids to save them because there's all this shooting and stuff going on. And in real life, what happened was a helicopter, and because of all the explosions going around, a helicopter went out of control. The stuntman was driving it. It crashed, and the rotor blades came off, and he's got the two kids under his arms, and all three of them just got decapitated.
Just so sad.
Oh, it was horrible, and it was that's why it kind of, the first segment kind of ends abruptly where he's on the train going off, to the Holocaust, the gas chambers or whatever. And
Holy shit.
it was supposed to be a much longer sequence of him in Vietnam. And they said it was poorly planned. It was barely rehearsed. The New York Times reported that the explosions damaged the rotor blades on the aircraft, caused it to lose control.
There were a lot of things that were done wrong too. Like it was really late. I think it was like 11 or 12 at night when it happened, and they'd been filming all day, and the kids were still on the set, which you're not supposed to be using kids that late at night.
Yeah.
It was just, Landis really was pushing to get this done, and many of the people involved in the production blamed him, and he was never held legally responsible for any of it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steven Spielberg.
Right. And Vic Morrow, the really eerie part of this whole thing, I mean, it's terrible, it's tragic. But Vic Morrow always felt he was going to die somehow involving a helicopter crash years before this movie.
Wow.
When they were shooting Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry in '73, he basically he made them put a $1 million life insurance policy on him before he'd shoot any scenes involving the helicopter that he was supposed to be in. And then when they asked him about it, he said, "I always had a premonition I was going to die in a helicopter crash." So that was really weird. And even before shooting the sequence in this movie, he was like, "I must be out of my mind to be doing this. I should have asked for a stunt double. What can they do but kill me, right?"
Yeah.
Damn.
Yikes.
Jennifer Jason Leigh, by the way, is one of his daughters. I did not know that.
Oh.
But I guess they, went to trial. It lasted like 9 months. Basically everything. They weren't found guilty for anything, but then there was a civil suit from the parents of the kids, and they settled out of court with it.
Yeah, because I'd sue the hell out of. I love the Twilight Zone, but that, like I said, it took me until today, literally, to be able to get past like that scene, just because I knew where it stopped and where it should have been, and that's just why I couldn't, get past that. And I also thought about.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm just realizing now, because earlier you said, "What happened to Vic? What happened to Vic?" a couple times, and in my head I'm thinking, "What happened to Vic?" Roger finally just explained what it was. Like,
yeah,
okay, but now I see what you're
the story itself it's a very powerful story, but then when you add the fact that he was killed, holding, a little Vietnamese baby working, who, I mean, her, and I that's the sad part, is this mother probably, thought it was, her lucky stars had come because she was getting 100, USD, in 1980 a day. That's a lot of money, for a day's work. So for something like that to happen, I felt like it probably tainted the whole film, I would think.
Absolutely. All the way up to the release of the film. You can watch it online. It was being filmed. It happened while they were filming. And
oh my God.
I mean, the footage is out there.
It's horrifying. Yeah, I've seen
it. Luckily, you can't really see the deaths explicitly, but you kind of can. I mean, you can tell where they are, and you can tell exactly what happened.
Yeah.
So it's really shocking.
Yeah.
It's really sad. Really, really sad. And I don't want to, segue too far left off subject here, but you would have thought that they would have gotten their acts together by then, because we're still dealing with shit like this today on sets. I mean, not even just the Brandon Lees or the the Russ incident, Alec Baldwin. like this shit happens on so many sets, independent, big, whatever across this country. And that honestly should have been the stop to, all of that. I mean, I just don't, it's just insane to me how.
And this incident actually ended up creating a lot of safety protocols on filmmaking, but like you said, they still shit still happens,
Yeah, they have more restrictions and regulations and everything, but yeah, people are still brain dead and make bad decisions and shit.
Right. So this first sequence that we're talking about was directed by John Landis. It's a kind of a mashup of two Twilight Zone episodes, one called Back There and one called The Quality of Mercy. I guess Back There was about a guy who exits a club after conversation about the feasibility of time travel to change his past, only to realize he has been transported to the past. And then they take the morality tale from another one, from Quality of Mercy, where there's this lieutenant who's overly impetuous, basically finds himself having swapped places with the enemy. So it's supposed to teach him like empathy. So Landis took those two, mashed them together, and wrote and directed this whole sequence, which is too bad. But did you notice the actors in it? And I wanted to go back and then I'll show some graphics here. Oops, I lost it now. Where did that go? Where are the characters? Oh, there we go. So one of his buddies in the bar at the beginning, do you recognize him?
Yeah, he was in The Thing.
He was Norris from The Thing. He's the one who gets his chest broke open.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I just guys don't laugh at me, but I just finally saw The Thing a couple weeks ago.
Oh my!
The original.
Yeah, better late than never.
But of course, the only way that I found my way back to the past was through a remake. So
it's all right.
Wait, so you saw the remake first, and then you saw the original? Is that
unfortunately, yeah.
Dude, you're so cryptic the way you talk sometimes. Like I gotta like decode what you're saying.
Sorry.
Which original Thing? Are you talking about? You just recently saw the John Carpenter The Thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just recently saw it. The only reason I actually watched it was because I saw a remake. I was skipping through, I don't know if it was Hulu or something, and I was like, oh, a Thing. And then I looked and it said, I think like
2011.
Something like that. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to watch this. And so I went and watched the original.
Yeah. That in and of itself is a remake. It was originally a 1956 film directed by I forget the actual director's name, but Howard Hawks was the producer.
Yeah.
Oh,
and so
it's called Thing from Another World.
Yes.
Oh.
I think we talked about that recently on one of our shows.
Yeah.
I don't think.
But then the one from 2011, though, Dantes, that's actually a prequel to the one with Kurt Russell.
Okay, well, I haven't watched that one.
It's garbage. A remake and it's a reboot. It's not. It's an actual direct prequel.
Yeah.
And they do a pretty okay job of tying it in. They still had to use computer effects, but they did a lot of practical effects in it too.
Okay, well, eventually at some point, I suppose I'll watch it. Michael's saying no.
I'm glad. Well, I don't know. I just but I mean, I'm glad that you finally saw the John Carpenter one because it's fantastic.
It really was. It was just, I don't know. It's just something about wanting to take the chance on certain older TV and film because it's hard because if I turn on the television and if I feel like I'm sitting in my grandmother's kitchen, I'm not going to enjoy it. But thankfully though, I could stomach it. It was good. It didn't, but I mean by that is it didn't feel like it was made in the 80s is what I'm saying. Like it didn't look like it was made in the 80s. The film didn't have the crack, popple, and hiss in it. It was just, it was clean film.
That's funny. Did you notice too? I don't know if you guys recognized him. So when Vic Morrow's character at the beginning in the bar is going on his little racist rant there, one of the guys at the other table gets up and he leans in. He's like, "Is there a problem here?" And
he looked familiar too.
That's Stephen Williams. He was he played Rufus on Supernatural, but he was also He was the character, and I can't think of the character's name because I didn't look it up, but he was in Jason Goes to Hell, and he basically had all this plot information. It takes a Voorhees to kill a Voorhees, you know?
I've seen him in numerous things, like
Yeah.
but I don't know.
Well, I remember him from The Equalizer,
That's
Yeah.
the TV show, The
I
Equalizer
remember
from the
that show.
80s.
Yeah.
He was on The Equalizer.
Yeah.
And he did some other stuff too. Oh, he was in the Blues Brothers.
That's where I saw him from.
That's
He was in the
Yes.
Blues Brothers.
Yes.
So it's probably why Landis got him for this part. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
It is really like that whole scene in the bar before he steps. Well, I want to say two things. One, I really liked the fact that the German that the Nazis were just talking to each other in German and there were no subtitles at all,
Yeah.
because it made us more there with him. Like, he didn't know what the hell they were saying, and neither do we. You know, we have to sort of judge by their body language or how they're reacting to each other, you know, to try like figure out. So I loved that. But yeah, if you tried to make that first scene with him mouthing off in the bar nowadays, that you just forget it. Like, there's no way. People in this, it was so clearly like 40 years ago, because people were kind of looking at him funny, but nobody was saying anything, and his friends were like, all right, come on, just take it easy. But it wasn't being treated as like a huge deal, you know.
Yeah.
But oh my god, it would have been a completely different. You couldn't even probably get the script passed, you know. Like,
yeah, you're right. You're definitely right, Mike Hill.
But I mean,
I still hear people talking like that.
No,
I still hear people talking like that in public.
Yeah, but as a movie, I don't think they would have allowed it in a movie, or maybe they would have. I don't know. But like, if it was set in the modern day, he just would have gotten the crap knocked out of him, and he never would have been able to walk out.
Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, you're definitely right about that.
I did want to mention too, one of the Vietnamese soldiers was Al Leong. We've seen him in tons of stuff. He was in Lethal Weapon. He was the torturer guy. He was one of Hans Gruber's men in Die Hard. He's the one that steals the candy bar.
Oh yes.
Big Trouble in Little China. He was even in General Hospital. This guy's in everything.
Yeah, he's been in tons of shit. Oh my god.
So
I didn't recognize him in this, but
I'm going to switch over to this now. Bill, you had sent this to me. You should have let me know. So I didn't. I just caught it.
I did.
Earlier.
I did tell you.
You did? Oh, I didn't hear it. So
it's no big deal anyway.
This was from Monster Club. Where did you find this? What newspaper is this from?
It was from the Evening Standard, I believe. It's hard to find stuff in the British newspapers. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, using a search engine, it's hard to find it because I have an online archive that I use.
Okay. Yeah.
Newspapers.com.
Yeah.
It's hard to find this stuff in the London papers with that. So I just started going through almost every issue every day. I would just scan right to the movie sections, and I found stuff like this.
Yeah.
Where it played with the giant spider invasion. And this was 1981.
Right.
So giant spider invasion was 75. I think.
I was gonna say.
That's a long time to be on the shelf in the UK.
That's wicked fun. All right, so I'm gonna stop sharing that and we'll jump over to thank you for that, by the way. Now where are we? Come on, you can do this. Here we go, and we are on the Twilight Zone. Wasn't a whole heck of a lot in terms of variety. The Twilight Zones, it was pretty much the same one across the board, at least as far as I found. If you find any other ones, Bill, let me know. But it's pretty much just the logo.
Yeah, there wasn't very much variation.
Yeah. And then you get some stuff, exhilarating Flight of Fancy, the most imaginative and witty entertainment released so far this year. And then I included these other ones just to see what was playing up against Superman 3, The Survivors, and Return of the Jedi.
Ooh, Return of the Jedi. Ooh.
What did you think of Burgess Meredith doing the opening narration? Yeah,
I loved it. And I loved at the end that they actually played Serling's voice.
Yeah. I don't know. I even though I love Burgess Meredith, I thought his voice was a little feeble for that opening.
Yes, the narration was not giving me. It wasn't giving me Rod Serling. Let's just say it.
Because there's a certain.
You got to be creepy.
Yeah, like you get the sense with Rod Serling, like he's got such a deep voice, and you almost feel like he knows a lot more than he's saying. Like he's trying to give you a general overview of what you're about to come into, but I don't know. There's just like a more gravitas when he says it than,
Right.
Mike Hill, I almost felt like he was reading me a bedtime story. Did you get that feeling?
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit.
Going to tell you a tale of the Twilight Zone.
A terrifying bedtime story.
Yes.
This
I
one,
really wish there had been. I'm sorry, Raj.
no, it's okay. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I really wish there had been. I mean, especially being the 80s when this movie was released. I really wish that at least one of the 4 stories in this film had had sort of a apocalyptic, like a warning about going too far, and you know, because of the 80s, there was all like the fear of a nuclear war between the US and Russia and da da da. And I kind of feel like there were a lot of stories in the earlier Twilight Zone series that were sort of like, man really has to tread carefully because who knows what he's going to uncover, and it could be really bad. And I just feel like I wish there had been one story in there that was on a bigger scale,
Right. Like what's the one? Was it Mulberry Street? The one where the lights go out and the neighbors all start turning on each other, thinking commie or something.
That's a scary one.
Yeah. So is this sharing with you guys? It's not sharing.
No.
And I was talking through them.
And even like some of the early episodes were kind of like the Matrix, like the person wakes up in a different reality and is like, what's going on, and how did I get here? Why are things like this? And
do you remember the one? I can't remember if it was Twilight Zone or Outer Limits, where the lady forgets her keys and she goes back into her apartment, and there are people in there disassembling her apartment, and it turns out that like reality is just completely fabricated everywhere she goes in her life. Like none of it's real.
And that's the explanation why sometimes your keys go missing, and then when you go looking again, they're right there on the counter where you thought they were, because they forgot to rebuild that when they broke everything down and rebuilt it. I always love that. So this is what I was saying. Of course, I'm thinking you guys are seeing this, and I was talking through it. But this was one from the Detroit Free Press.
Oh yeah.
And then this one had Superman 3, The Survivors, and Jedi playing along with the Twilight Zone. I like that Enter a New Dimension. You don't see that in some of the other posters.
Christopher Reeve really hated Superman 3.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Didn't everyone
He did not think
Superman
it should
3?
be super comedic. He didn't like that whole element of it.
It should have at least been funny. I mean, it's pretty bad when Richard Pryor's in your movie and it's not really that funny.
No. Yet
Well,
he
they
falls off a
just-
skyscraper and skis. And
I didn't understand why he was there anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it seemed shoehorned into it, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, are we jumping the shark already? This is the third film.
So then we had this playing alongside Jedi. And
This
then...
is a good weekend, though. I don't know where my dude, I would have been broke.
Yeah.
I know, me too.
I mean, my God, like, okay, I got a Disney movie. I'm all about that. Like, yes, we would have gone to see that. Then I don't know. Oh, gosh. Oh, Twilight Zone first, probably. And then The Sword in the Stone. Okay. And then, oh my God, I didn't see The Officer and the Gentleman. Okay.
And look at this one, Dragon Ninja versus Killer Lee and Bodyguard. Those must have been Chinese Kung Fu films, because I don't recognize.
Yeah, that theater played a lot of Kung Fu in the early 80s.
Okay, yeah, this is from the Miami Herald. I kept this side stuff in only because I like this was a slightly different Twilight Zone, even though it's pretty much the same thing. It just didn't have the black background.
Sure.
But Good Morning America liked it, so that's all we need to know.
A whole lot of fun. Well, that's a sort of a very generic sort of praise. It's a whole lot of fun.
Wait a minute. This was not PG.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was PG.
Oh my gosh.
It was before PG-13, because
there was no PG-13. Yeah,
7, I think.
Really? That sort of shocks me, actually.
Like, I remember Clash of the Titans and Raiders of the Lost Ark came out around the same time, and I didn't really know anything about Raiders, and I begged my parents to take me to see Clash, and there were boobs in that movie.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. And that was PG?
You could show boobs PG.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as it wasn't a sex scene, like it just
Yeah.
nudity was okay. There couldn't be a sex scene with like humping going on, but
Right.
And you could
boobs were
show a little
okay.
bit of blood, somebody dying. You could say shit, goddamn it, bitch, pretty often. Fuck once in a great while.
Yeah,
And then
Mommy
they
Dearest got away with a
decided,
fuck.
Which one?
yeah. And then they decided at some point to divide Mommy Dearest.
Oh, right.
Did.
Oh yeah.
Don't fuck with me, fellas.
That
Yeah.
movie bothered the shit out of me. I was so depressed after that movie.
I know. What when did they come up with PG-13? Does anybody know? Was it like 87?
85, I
80,
think.
85, 87, yeah.
Gremlins was one of the first ones, and that was the end of 84.
That's right, yeah.
I'm wondering what motivated them to finally say, okay, there's got to be something between PG and R.
I know what it was. It was
What?
Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Okay.
Pulling the
the-
heart out. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a scene
Yeah.
where they pull someone's heart out on camera, and of course it got pushed through as PG because Spielberg, but audiences freaked out
Right.
about it a little bit.
One thing that always baffled me was why the animated Lion King was PG and not PG-13, because there's some kills in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Some small adult references too, but that's the brilliant thing about Disney also is that
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Well,
Like, I mean, oh my God. And no, new Disney still too. Like, I mean, there's a lot of adult subject matter that the jokes, especially in these cartoons, are for adults.
I ran out of space.
Uh-oh.
That's all right. So, all right, we're coming up on almost 3 hours here. So let's go into segment 2, which is a remake of Kick the Can, directed by Spielberg. And one of the writers on it was Richard Matheson, who wrote a lot of the original Twilight Zone episodes. I love this one. This one's probably my favorite. First of all, I love Scatman Crothers. I didn't remember a lot from this, but a lot from this movie. But this one, I remembered like my favorite part was the British guy was like, fuck that, I'm not going back to being old, I'm taking off.
Oh God, that made me laugh so hard, dude. Then they played that little music like when he flipped out of the fucking bed.
Yeah.
Dude, he was rejuvenated.
Yeah. That was awesome. Yeah. So Scatman Crothers, of course, we mentioned. I always loved him. Of course, he was in The Shining, as everyone knows.
I thought so.
I always remembered him from the Globetrotters on Gilligan's Island, and he was the voice of Hong Kong Phooey, cartoon character from the.
Yes.
I remember Hong Kong food. I know that.
Yeah.
So that was a good one. That had a pretty good
I feel like that. I don't know. Anyway, I think I would have enjoyed that if it had been a separate episode, but for me, it just kind of I don't know. It broke the. I know it's an anthology film, but it just seemed like so tonally different from all the other ones where there was a little bit of like shit, like there was nothing really scary at all in this one. And it's fine. I think it's fine by itself, but I don't think it's the weakest link in the
story.
anthology in terms of holding the film together. Just
I see.
my own opinion.
I could see that. Yeah, it's definitely tonally different than all the others. I don't know what their criteria was to pick them, unless it was just like
they
each picked the director and said go with whatever you want.
Yeah, maybe they wanted to do variety. They were trying to.
He even got first pick.
Wait, who directed Cocoon? Was that Spielberg? No.
No, that was Ron Howard, wasn't it?
Oh, Ron Howard. Yeah.
He did that?
Was it?
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Richie Cunningham. Yeah. Let's see.
Little old Ron. He did that?
But I thought the little kid actors did a great job of portraying
yes
people.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Oh, Louie, what's he doing now? Yeah.
Although, some of the stuff they said, like, oh, I don't know if I could deal with, the death of my father again or whatever. And I was like, wait a minute, is he offering to put them back into their lives back when they were children, or is he just making them young now?
I think he
Like,
was making them young now. That's why I thought their arguments were kind of weak. He's like,
yeah, like that doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
the one kid that was like, I don't want to have to go through school again.
Yeah.
And I agreed with him. I really
Yeah.
did.
I wouldn't want to do that again, no matter what.
God, I have to defend myself every day again. Are you kidding me?
Oh. See, knowing what I know now, I would go through school with a whole different attitude, and it would be a whole different experience for me.
Oh my God, yeah, totally. We probably would all be jocks because we know the game. We'd all be on the football team. We'd have we'd have our own little pep rally. We'd know what to do.
Yeah. And we'd ace every test because we all that, you know, when you look back, it's all shit that we all know now. Ron Howard did direct Cocoon, by the way.
That's so bizarre that he did that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, he started directing.
Yeah. He started directing way back because didn't he do was it Gumball Rally or in the 70s?
Probably.
Now I gotta look it up. Down this rabbit hole. Here we go.
It's funny. I was just thinking the other day how, when there was a point when I was a kid growing up where I don't remember exactly when I don't remember exactly when, but I used to always think every time I had a bad day or something went wrong, I used to always be like, if only I could go back in time, like just like 24 hours, just go back in time, 24 hours, handle that situation differently, or, bring what I know now into that again and say something different or keep my mouth shut or whatever. I used to always wish that I could go back and fix stuff. And then eventually I started realizing, okay, this is dumb. I can't. And like just letting it go. I mean, I always knew that I couldn't, but I was just like finally like I stopped doing it for, and then just the other day, I mean, like ages and ages later, I had like a similar thought like that. Like, man, I just wish I could go back and have like a serious talk with myself,
Yeah.
when I was like 10 years old or something, or just sit myself down and be like, okay, I'm you from the future, and dude, you gotta not do this and do more of this and forget about that, and focus on this and take advantage of that. And like, I just really wish I could do that.
That's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking.
Yeah.
I always, whenever I see
True.
something online where it says, if you could go back and tell your younger self 4 words, what would it be? And mine would be save all TV guides.
4 words. Wow. I never
Don't
thought
go
of it
to
in terms of
college.
4
That is
words.
4 words.
Mine would be
Yeah.
don't go to college.
Yeah.
So he started directing back in '69, which is really interesting. I guess, yeah.
Really?
Post Opie. Grand Theft Auto, though, was a big one. That was '77. He did, okay.
That's
So
a
he
great
did
movie,
shorts.
Grand Theft Auto.
And then what, Bill?
I love Grand Theft Auto. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah. That was his feature directorial debut. He also directed Night Shift that had Ron
I
Howard.
love Night Shift. I've seen that.
What's his name?
My grandmother showed me that. I love that.
Henry
movie.
Winkler.
Yeah, Henry Winkler.
Splash with Tom Hanks. He did that. Cocoon.
Ron did that?
Yeah.
Damn, he's actually sort of prolific. I'm late.
Gung Ho with Michael Keaton. Willow with Val Kilmer.
Wait, he did that too?
Yeah.
Backdraft too?
Yeah.
Wow.
Apollo 13. I remember that.
Yeah. Apollo 13.
Yeah.
Well, excuse me, Ron.
He did Ransom with Mel Gibson.
Wow.
The live action Grinch with Jim Carrey.
Sorry, Ron. You can please hire me. I didn't know.
He's done a bunch since then. I guess 13 Lives is the last one he did in
Wow.
2022, and he's got a few coming up.
His daughter's quite the actress too. I was shocked when I found out that was his daughter.
Who's his daughter?
I believe her name is Bryce. She was in
Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yeah. What was
Lady
that?
in the Water.
Lady in the Water.
And
Yeah.
the Jurassic Kingdom movies.
Oh, okay.
Village. She was in The Village.
The Village. Yeah, she's not.
No, go ahead.
She's not. She doesn't always pick the best projects, but she's cute.
I don't want to get too far on a tangent here, but I didn't like The Village, and the only reason I didn't like The Village was it was like M. Night Shyamalan's like 3rd or 4th film, and I remember seeing it at the drive-in and thinking, okay, he's going to try and out twist himself. If I was M. Night Shyamalan, how would I make this movie turn out? And then I thought about how I thought the ending should be. And I was like, oh, they better not do that. They better not do. And that's how the movie turned out. And I was like, fuck you. I hate this movie.
Well, it's sort of hard, I feel like, to when you become known for, being the guy who throws the wrench at the end of the movie, you got to find a different way and a different position to put the wrench.
Yeah.
That was a mistake.
Yeah.
Like
Like
he should
even,
have gone so far away from that after The Sixth Sense, because that
Village,
once you get into yeah.
the movie with the beach and where they old.
Old.
That does.
Oh, don't waste your.
I love The Village. I think it's great. And I saw the twist coming and it didn't matter to me. Like I kind of figured that one out. I was like, there are no monsters in the woods. I know that.
Yeah.
And
I thought that was even more clever. I thought that was more clever than The Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
Because
too.
it's what? Yes, because it speaks volumes to what people will do to create a sense of security. Like we as human beings will do something like that. We build subdivisions to protect ourselves from, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
now, are you saying the twist in terms of the fiction of the movie, the twist worked better, or just that the objective, when you look at them together objectively, one is more impactful?
Yeah, objectively, I think is better. I feel like the Sixth Sense was good, but I mean, all of his films are sort of like that, Michael. Like even The Devil. Did you guys watch The Devil?
No.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Thank you, Bill.
See, I like what's the Unbreakable.
Oh, I love that one.
Oh, those are great.
And
Speaking of Samuel L. Jackson, there's a movie I love him in.
yeah.
Oh, he is great in that movie. That's because he's not playing an angry black person.
Yeah, he's like, but he's a super villain, which is amazing.
Mr. Glass.
He's so cool in that movie. I actually want a comic book. I want a comic book.
You won a comic book?
Yeah, I want a comic book. I'm waiting on a comic.
Oh, you want?
Oh, okay.
I thought you said you won a comic book.
That's what I
like
thought you
were
said.
in a contest. You won a comic book?
All right, so let's get on to the second story here. This was of course my mouse is
that would be awesome. Like a graphic novel of that whole movie story. That would be
it really would.
Oh yeah. Yeah. All right, so the second one was a remake of the episode called It's a Good Life, directed by Joe Dante, and again written by Richard Matheson. It's basically this little kid has this mental power to pretty much make anything he wants happens, and he controls people. And the original version starred Billy Mooney, who played Will Robinson in Lost in Space as the little kid, and I felt he was far scarier on the TV show episode than the kid in this one. Which, by the way, Billy Mooney has a cameo at the beginning in the diner. He's one of the dudes that gets pissed off that the little kid's playing the video game and it's screwing up their boxing match.
Yeah.
TV. We've got with our cast, we've got Kathleen Quinlan, who plays the main character Helen. It took me a little bit as I was watching it, but I remembered she was the hot chick in The Doors that Jim Morrison had an affair with. She was, I think, a reporter. She was also in American.
Yeah.
She was Tom Hanks's wife in Apollo 13.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I knew I had seen her in
that you can
things,
recognize. Then, of course, we've got some character actors in here that we've talked about before in the show. We got Kevin McCarthy, who played Uncle Walt, and just nutty as ever in this movie. Of course, he was the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And Dick Miller plays Walter Paisley again. He's the guy that owns the diner. And I mentioned Bill Mooney was in this little Lost in Space kid. So I personally, I think like the first 2/3 of this particular story was really good. And then I think it just sort of fell off at the end. I feel like they wrote themselves into a corner and didn't know how to get out of it because I don't know, it just kind of fell flat at the end for me. Or would you guess?
It was a little too long. Maybe they could have, cut it back a little bit if there wasn't that material there. But Dante does a lot of showy stuff with this episode, with like the special effects and the realization of this kid's strange fantasy world he's created in his house, if that's even what it is. That you really don't know how much the kid has conjured in that
Right.
segment, because in the end they're sort of like in this misty netherworld. Like, where the fuck are they?
Well,
I hated this.
I didn't know what was going on for quite some time. I just thought that this, I thought this family was, possibly just out of their flipping mind, just letting
Yeah.
the kid do whatever he wanted to do. And then I realized that he was a little darker than.
Yeah.
They weren't even really his family. None of those people were his real family in it.
Right. The one shot that scared the shit out of me for years after this movie was the sister, and the camera pans and you see that she's got literally like no mouth, like it's just skin, like which they did in the Matrix too. That happened to Keanu at one point, and that freaked me out too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was pretty creepy. That was pretty creepy. I also thought of Carrie a little bit in terms of well, not Carrie. Gosh, I can't think of the name of the movie. I'm sorry, guys. Bear with me. Was that Carrie? Not Carrie. I can't think of the name of the movie, but generally, whenever there is a child like Megan, or well, she's not a child, she's like a robot, isn't
The
she?
robot lady, yeah.
Robot lady child. So maybe that's not a good.
Oh, that movie was fucking terrible.
Well, I'm just glad I didn't have to waste any money on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did.
It was awful. Oh my God, so bad.
There was a little girl online that was dressed up as her, and she was in this store, and she would stand and people would think it was a doll or whatever, mannequin, and then she'd jump out and start doing the crawling around shit, and people freaking out.
Did she do the dance?
Yeah. That I thought was better than the movie. I didn't hate that movie, but that's a tangent here. So anyways, that was
third segment with the kid. It was just fucking awful. I just thought it was so annoying. Like, I cared about this woman at the beginning of the thing. I was like, okay, I'm curious to see what happens to her. And then it just got stupider and stupider. And I just didn't care. And I hated the kid, and I wanted her to get out. So I guess that was, successful, because that's what they wanted you to want. But yeah, and then it, like you said, Roger, it just petered out toward the end. It's like they wrote themselves into a corner, exactly what you said. And then they just did this random, unsatisfying ending.
She like talks to him nicely, and then he
stops what he didn't understand the ending.
And then she just decides to like give her whole life to him, like to.
Did we mention that Cherry Curry is in this from The Runaways? She plays the sister.
Oh, right.
Okay. I think she's the sister with no mouth.
Oh, all right.
It's been a long time since I saw it to spot Cherry Curry.
That's funny. I like the one when the other sister, though, gets thrust into the cartoon world and then the giant monster eats her. That was kind of cool.
Maybe that was her.
Yeah.
When I saw that, I of course, you guys probably already know where I'm going with this, but when I saw that, I first thought of "Welcome to the Prime Time, bitch."
That's funny.
Freddy Krueger. I mean, Robert Englund. I saw something once where they asked him like what was one of his favorite one-liners or favorite kills or something, and he said that was one. He actually came up with that on the set. He was supposed to say something else, and then the other thing, and he just said, one time they did the take, and he said, "Welcome to prime time, bitch," and it just stuck.
So then we come to the fourth segment, which is the remake of the episode Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. Again, written by Richard Matheson, directed by George Miller, who's famous for Mad Max, Road Warrior, Mad Max Fury Road. John Lithgow basically plays the William Shatner character, except he takes it to this whole other level of extreme because he's just absolutely terrified. I think he's in the bathroom at the beginning, puking or whatever, and people are knocking on the door. They want to get in, and I think he took it to this whole other level. The thing I always took away from this one. Not always, but I mean, years ago, he was on Third Rock from the Sun,
Oh
and
yeah.
they always talked about their boss, the big giant head, and you never saw him. And finally, the big giant head was coming, and of course, this plane lands, and William Shatner gets off. He's the big giant head, and he's like, "Oh, how was your flight?" And he goes, "It was good, but I saw this creature on the wing." And Lithgow goes, "That happened to me too."
That's awesome. Oh, that's so cool.
So, I like this one a lot. I liked, I mean, it's, improbable. Like he shoots I think once you shoot a window out on a plane, everything just gets sucked out.
That's it. Yeah. Right. Right.
That's
You're
bad.
done.
That's very, very bad when that
Yeah.
happens.
Yes.
But I liked how it ended where there actually was damage on the plane from the gun. And,
Yeah.
It actually felt more complete than the first one, I think.
yeah.
I really liked the fact that it was legitimately hard to see. Like the first several times he looks out the window, it was like there would be a brief moment where you kind of saw a silhouette, like an arm going up, but it was really hard to see for sure if there was something there. Of course, you're watching a movie, so there is something there, but they did a really good job of like making it believable that he just couldn't, at first, he couldn't discern whether it was there or not, and then he would look out the second time and it wasn't there, and then he looked again, and
nobody else could see it either. Everybody else
Nobody
was
else,
presumably going to look out the window and see if they could see it,
Yeah.
and nobody saw it except him.
And I like how at first he's like, it must have been, a guy fixing the plane that got stuck on the wing when it took off, which is a logical leap that you would make. You wouldn't think, oh, it's a monster, But there was so many.
And then there's that moment where he opens the window and it's in his face.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
There were so many 80s moments in this, like when the stewardess offers him like tranquilizer pills.
Yeah, dude, I thought that was so. She's like, they're quite mild. I'm like, holy shit. I was like, does she have Quaaludes on this flight? I mean,
Oh, people were eating that shit like crazy back then.
Oh yeah.
Nobody knew it was going to be a problem either. They're like, oh yeah, just take this shit, man. You're gonna love it.
I saw it on Valley
Like
of the Dolls.
Housewives,
Yeah.
that's so funny, Bill.
The doctor would prescribe it for you just because you were feeling sad or something. Like he'd write you a script for some uppers for no other reason.
Right.
Doctor, I'm feeling really down today.
The Stones told the truth about Mother's Little Helper.
Right. That's right.
That's so funny. Oh.
But then one thing that at the very beginning was a telltale sign for me for this particular story was when the captain announces, and please put out any cigarettes you have in case there's turbulence. We don't want it flying around the cabin.
Very 80s.
And then
It still blows my mind the beginning of Die Hard when he gets up out of his seat and he has a gun.
Yeah.
Because he's a cop, he has a gun in his holster under his arm.
Yeah. It's okay. I'm a cop.
It's like, holy shit.
But then I think even Lithgow lights up at one point.
It just
oh, go ahead. What?
No, just I remember like that time when you can go into places and people, like, there were non-smoking sections and smoking sections, and everybody smoked, regardless of what section you sat in, because you were smelling it.
I remember being on smoking and non-smoking planes.
Sharing the same air. It doesn't matter.
Right.
What difference does it make, really?
It's stupid.
Well, I think they just outfitted the one part where you could smoke. There were like things to catch the smoke, like smoke grabbers. Maybe. I don't know. I feel like they had some kind of suction thing going there for the
Something, yeah.
He gets sucked right out of the plane.
Yeah. It's like Michael said, they were just going to recycle the air anyway, so you're breathing it one way or the other.
Oh man, but I thought Lithgow was great in this.
He was, yeah.
He was, I think the last thing I saw him in, he might have been in other stuff, was the first of the remakes of the Planet of the Apes films, where he was James Franco's father, and he had Alzheimer's.
He was great. He was great. He's got a real level of intensity to his performances, And that's something that William Shatner couldn't do for that. Unfortunately, I hate to say that. And we love Will. He's great. But I felt, totally convinced that there was a fucking monster because of how insane Lithgow was.
Yeah.
Like William Shatner was he was very cool and relaxed. Oh, there's a monster on the plane.
John Lithgow was playing the crazies around this time. This is around the time he was in Blowout.
Yeah. And Buckaroo Banzai.
Oh, wow.
Wasn't he in the the remake of Pet Sematary? Was that him?
Yeah, yeah.
Like so many years ago, he was in that. I think.
We just bought that actually. He's on it. Yeah, he's in there.
The one with Clancy Brown? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the remake, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, the remake. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of the sequel.
No,
the recent. There was a recent one within like the last 10 years.
We actually saw that in the movies. It was like last year or something, or earlier this year.
No, that was a few years back.
No, it was like 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Hold on, let me see. And what's the one I saw recently? I saw the new Exorcist film, by the way, while I looked this
up. That was just it just made me want Linda Blair.
There were some nice nods to the original. I thought, nothing will compare to the original.
I just oh, you were right. 2019.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. It's actually okay. It's okay. I mean,
yeah, I remember enjoying it.
Okay. It's not good and ain't bad. I mean, good special effects, right?
It was fine.
I'd have to see it again. I don't really remember it.
Wait, though, when I Googled Pet Sematary, it also said, fucking God damn it. Bring me the original thing you showed me. You it said 2019, and then there was another one that said 2023, I thought.
Oh, yeah, that's the new one, Bloodlines. That's out.
That's the one you were talking about.
No.
Yep. I missed that one. Okay. I didn't know
that just came out.
Oh, okay. I'm all mixed up now.
Yeah, no, John Lithgow's in the 2019 one.
The 2019 one, yeah.
The newest one, Bloodlines, is an origin story.
Okay. I don't know if I want to watch it. Okay.
God, I can't stand sometimes.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, why do they always feel like they have to explain where things come from?
Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
We always have to go back and find out where it originated. I don't want to fucking know where it originated. It just is.
I'm so done. Like, if I see another Star Wars film where they give some offshoot character that no one cares about,
yeah. I didn't like the original Pet Sematary because that came out 89. So I had read the book in high school, and the book was, first of all, far scarier. But like anything, it's very hard to capture a novel into a film. But I thought Dale Midkiff as the father was so wooden in it that I could have scotch taped the 2x4 to my TV screen and he would have been just as good.
Well, he might not have had any kids. Did he have any real kids? I mean, did he have any kids of his own? I mean,
I don't know. It's just I thought the acting was wooden.
He's an actor. He should be able to fucking pull it off regardless.
Right.
They did a bad casting job, I think is what it comes down to. I haven't had this experience myself, but so therefore I can't portray it. Dude, you're an actor. Your job. Your whole job is to act like you're experiencing things that you haven't really experienced in most cases.
So all right. So let's get back to this. We'll wrap this up here. We've got Nightmare at 20,000 feet. I think we're all agreed that this was probably one of the strongest ones of the four.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bill?
I guess so. Yeah, I mean,
well, did you like one better? Which one did you like better?
He's pretty
I really like, the only one that I didn't think was on the same level was Kick the Can, because it seemed like it was from a completely different movie. It was like too feel goody and like a Steven Spielberg, amazing stories, but the other two had a very creepy edge to it. I don't know. I thought they were all about the same. I did think that the Nightmare at 20,000 feet had the best scare in the movie, of course, like when it's looking at him through the window, which they used. You've seen that in so many movies since it was on that original Twilight Zone episode way back when, including the one that always gets me is Halloween H20. where
Oh,
Jamie Lee
yeah.
Curtis and Michael Myers are looking at each other through that little round window. It's like, it's like she's at Nightmare in 20,000 feet, and Michael Myers is on the wing of the plane.
Yeah.
So I guess it does have the best scare in the movie.
The beginning still gets me though. Got me this time around. I was like, what the hell's gonna happen? I forgot what happened. And when fucking Dan Aykroyd turns and he's this
That was
creepy,
scary too.
I
You're
jumped
right.
out of my seat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me
yeah.
too.
Yeah, for some reason, Roger, I'm sure you remember this because I was such a pain in the ass about it. But for some reason, for years, I just didn't like Dan Aykroyd at all. I don't know what my problem was. I just didn't like him. Hated everything he was in. I was like, he's so fucking annoying. I can't stand him. But now when I go back and I watch like older stuff that he was in, I'm perfectly fine with him. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
he's cool. You know, like I enjoy. It's I don't have any. I don't know what my issue was. I just hated him before.
Funny. And this is pre Ghostbusters, but I remembered I knew who he was because of Saturday Night Live.
Oh, right. He
Yes.
was. Yeah. He was there.
Back when SNL was funny, you know.
I'm a Mad TV kind of guy. Yeah.
I never really watched.
I've
was that
seen
the
Mad
one with Jim
TV
Carrey, or
sometimes.
was
It's
that
really
Living
funny.
Color?
That's a Living Color. That
Um,
it sort of is in the same vein. It was
That was in Living Color.
it's a little more I don't know. How do I say this? Saturday Night Live to me
It's just
is
different.
yeah, but Saturday Night Live is sort of, even back then for me, it was for a certain type of person. I feel like Mad TV was like more for like the subversive, trans, underground, weird people. I mean,
It was meant for a younger audience,
Yeah.
definitely, than SNL.
yeah. In fact, I actually think it was a spinoff of Mad Magazine. You guys,
yes, yeah, it was.
Yeah.
There was a kid version too. Mad, I forget, Mad for Kids or something, but it was actually really funny.
Wasn't Will Sasso on Mad TV?
fuck
Yeah,
yeah,
yes, he was.
yes, he was.
And Roger, you saw all of
Love Will
the
Sasso.
sketches
Wow.
about what's the fucking martial arts guy?
Steven
uh,
Seagal.
Steven Seagal, fat
right.
old Steven Seagal.
He do those,
And he's like, have you seen any of those, Roger? Those are so funny.
Maybe.
He also,
I never really watched Mad TV.
Hi, I'm Kenny Rogers.
And like the woman, the little Chinese woman who was trying to describe the guy to the cops all the time.
Miss Swan.
He looked like a man.
Yeah.
Okay, I got looked like a man. Yes. Was he tall? Was he short? Was he black? Was he white? Was he fat? Was he skinny? Okay. I tell you. Calm down. Don't get upset. Trying so hard not to get impatient with her. Remember the kid?
Oh my
Look what I can
actually,
do.
now that I'm thinking about it, like,
Look what I can
I
do.
don't even think like I don't even think like even on Saturday Night Live, a lot of the shit that they got away with in the 90s, they couldn't get away with, you know.
Right.
That's so racist.
Right.
They couldn't do that now.
Which is too bad because that was really funny. It was really
but people
funny.
are just,
Like she could have been any nationality, but she was so fucking
she
funny.
really was. She
Hypersensitive.
was a
now.
hoot.
That's funny. I stopped watching SNL after the Eddie Murphy, Joe Piscopo days.
Oh yeah, I do remember that.
All right, so then we've just got our last wrap up where John Lithgow's in the ambulance heading for the hospital, and of course Dan Aykroyd's driving it. Speaking of Dan Aykroyd, and he's like, "Hey, you want to see something really scary?"
Yes,
I thought that was kind of a cool ending. Because
I was not expecting that.
I remember seeing that as a kid. I really think I saw it in the theater with my dad, and we cracked up. That was so clever. Like to come back around to the him to be driving the ambulance and to say that.
Yeah,
that was like the best ending they could have possibly done.
I'd forgotten that. I really didn't remember that until it happened this time around when I watched it. But all right, so let's do our final thoughts on this. Michael, you go first.
I wish there had been one that was a little bit more scientific and warning about apocalypse and human ambition and whatnot. I feel like there were a lot of darker stories that involved all of humanity on the Twilight Zone, and I really wish that they had done one in this. I think Kick the Can is good as a solo episode, but it was sort of out of place. And The racism one I thought had a good message, but yeah, it obviously it had its own issues. Third installment with the kid and the bratty powers and stuff. I really think they could have made better selections for the two middle ones to make it tonally consistent and to make it more of a blockbuster. I mean, I think it would have been huge if they had done some deeper, darker subject matter in the middle without going full crazy psycho horror,
Right. Dantes?
So
I think this is a good introduction into the Twilight Zone legacy and lore. I will say that if you're not familiar with the Twilight Zone and you're looking for a good place, a safe place to actually start, like in this century, that would be where you start. I appreciated all of the stories. I do have to agree with Michael though. That was always the moral to every story from the Twilight Zone was, be careful, let's not go, too far towards the sun. We don't want to burn our wings off. You know what I mean? And I did not get a lot of that, but it I'd give it a solid 5 stars.
Nice.
out of
10. Yeah.
Nice. Bill?
Twilight Zone the movie is really it's a great introduction. Like Dantes said, if you weren't already familiar with the genius of Rod Serling, I guess I like it because it was bringing it to a newer generation, a younger generation. I do think that I think that the if you're making a Twilight Zone movie, the directors here, they did what they were expected to do, which was bring their own unique filmmaking style, the things that they all were known for. They really brought that to each of their segments. However, I think it sort of eclipsed the Rod Serling element of the film. That it became sort of showy for each one of them, and they all like, especially the Spielberg one was like so Spielberg with like the glowing people and like the way it was shot and everything. So, I would have liked to have seen more Serling in this because I really think he's one of the greats of just storytellers, American storytellers was Rod Serling. And it was, the episodic radio had been around for a long time at that point. But Rod Serling really did a lot to bring that into the television era. And I think he actually accomplished things. He broke ground that people are still trying to equal that to this day, like the creators of American Horror Story. Everybody's reaching to be that person that Rod Serling was back then, so long ago. Sorry, I know I'm rambling right now. The Michael Berryman, the actor who was in The Hills Have Eyes, like that very striking man, bald man, you know him as.
Yes.
He's actually really a very sensitive and nice guy. And he was a big fan of Rod Serling. He told a great story in Drive-In Asylum about meeting Rod Serling in Baskin Robbins one night.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And I was like fainting when I heard him. He said he and his brother smoked a joint and they wanted to go to Baskin Robbins because they were really stoned. So they walked down there and there was Rod Serling in Baskin Robbins, and they didn't know whether they should approach him or not because they were like, I don't know, like, do we dare say anything to Rod Serling? And they followed him out to his car and they said hello to him. And he had a driver, and he went over to his driver and he was like, it's okay, like you can turn the engine off. I'm going to talk to these guys. And he went and talked to them for half an hour about like just making his series. Night Gallery was brand new at that time. It hadn't come out yet, and he told them about developing Night Gallery.
Wow.
my
Which is
God.
exciting.
That's awesome.
Just to have that moment with somebody like Rod Serling is amazing.
Seriously, that's wow.
Right. Yeah, I think that's what's missing from this film is they didn't all necessarily have to be a morality play like the first one was. But they definitely, it didn't have that twist. Like for some reason, I keep thinking of the one with Agnes Moorehead, where there's no dialogue in the whole film or the whole episode, and she's in this little cabin by herself, and these little robot creatures attack her, and she's fighting against them the whole time. And come to find out, they're actually astronauts from Earth that had landed on some other planet, and for whatever reason, they were attacking her. And just that level of twist was what was missing probably from this movie, I think.
And also, there's sometimes the episodes of the TV show would end on like a tragic note. Like, I always think of the one with Burgess Meredith where like he breaks his glasses at the end.
Yeah.
And he like, you know, and it was just like your heart just breaks at the end. It's like, oh God, no, this poor bastard.
Right.
You know, like it's just there wasn't enough of that. Yeah.
Or like the one I always love too is that, I mean, there's so many that how can you not love them? But like the one with there's the soldier, the ballerina, the hobo, and a couple other characters, and they're in this spherical room. All they can do is find their way around this wall. They don't know where the hell they are, and come to find out they're dolls in a bin for, you know, donation bin for Christmas. And it's just stuff like that they should have probably picked some of those different stories. Like you said, Bill, this was more of a showcase for the directors than really trying to be to tell Serling stories. But either way, I still I think I agree with everything you guys said, and I think that this is a good gateway for people to, if they've never seen the original Twilight Zone show, especially if they have a hang up about black and white, like some people I know. Dantes, I'm not talking to you.
Is that true, Dantes? Do you not like black and white?
Excuse me.
Unless it's the Twilight Zone. That's the only one that I can actually stomach, to be honest. Like, I mean, and I can do Alfred Hitchcock. I can do that. But yeah, it better be a damn good fucking movie. I mean, it better be fucking good. I mean, I'm being absolutely serious. Like, because my reference points for a lot of these films are the fucking Twilight Zone. Like, and that's a pretty high bar. Like, the scripts are good, the sound is good, the acting is good. So that's a pretty high bar.
You're missing out on a lot of good shit, man.
I know. Well, it's all right.
A lot of good shit that was made during the black and white era. I mean, you don't have to be interested in it. It's your prerogative, but
I'm still stuck in the 90s, man. I'm still trucking my way through those fucking, you know, X-Files.
Okay,
buddy. Okay.
It's all right. I hear you. Everybody has their own things, but no, I kind of have a little bit of that too, but every time I force myself to break out of it and check out something that's in black and white, 90% of the time I'm impressed with how good it is.
Well,
like Gaslight, the original or
I love
from the 1940s. It is so beautifully filmed. It's black and white, but the contrast and the clarity is just so amazing. And of course, the story is awesome. And Katharine Hepburn's amazing.
Like Metropolis.
Not Katharine Hepburn.
I've seen Metropolis.
That's not Katharine Hepburn. What the fuck's her name?
Betty Davis.
No, in
Gaslight. I can't remember the actress's name. It's right on the tip of my tongue.
Bergman? No.
Oh, Ingrid Bergman?
Ingrid Bergman, is it?
I don't think so.
Shit.
I have to look it up.
No, I gotta look it up. I was just talking about this recently.
Gaslight. Yeah, it was Ingrid Bergman. Sorry.
It was, okay.
Yeah. I mean, Casablanca is my second all-time favorite movie, so.
That's in here too. It's that the cassette's in here somewhere. I'll get to that sometime. Just bought that actually.
Casablanca.
Yeah, I think that movie is kind of overrated actually.
I've Gone with the Wind in here too. So.
Yeah. That's so long. Gone with the Wind. It goes on and on.
I don't
it's like 4 hours.
I just have to watch it for those gay references, you know, the you know, having to, you know, make your fucking outfit out of, you know, curtains and shit, you know.
Yeah. I love Butterfly McQueen too. Anything she's in, it's worth it just to see what she's gonna do.
Yeah, I have all of that in here. I'm gonna have to watch it.
All right, folks. Well, we've been at it for quite a while here, so let's wrap this up. Thank you for joining me, guys. And where can we find you guys online? Bill, you go first.
driveinasylum.com collects all of my online presences, and you can check me out on Facebook. The Facebook page is Groovy Doom. And Follow Groovy Doom on YouTube. Why don't you? Give me a like and a subscribe.
Why don't you?
Awesome. Dantes, where can folks find you?
You guys can find me on Spotify. You guys can listen to my new album, new EP, She's a Lady. We actually just released the Funky Touch mix a few weeks ago. So Spotify, facebook.com/Dantes Alexander me, Instagram /Dantes Alexander, and that's me.
Awesome. And you can find me and all my podcasts and blogs at havenpodcasts.com. Thank you for joining us. Hope you guys have a good Thanksgiving this month, and we'll be back again in December. And probably after the show, we will talk about what we're going to do next.